Hey, it's Quadex here. Sorry this one was delayed. I had a family vacation and school just started, but I should be uploading more frequently now. I hope you all enjoy this. There is some corny relationship stuff that comes on later on through the video. Generally, it's an enjoyable experience though. Make sure to like the video, comment Q if you haven't already, and subscribe if you're new. Let's get into the video. Alright guys, let's review the basics of the transformation jutsu, Iruka said happily. His students were all progressing along well and they all showed exceptional talent. I feel like I'm looking at the future version of Kakashi's time, Iruka thought for a moment before he shook his head. Alright Sasuke, you're up first, Iruka said, and Sasuke took a step forward from the line. Transform. Sasuke transformed into Iruka. Perfect transformation into me. Alright, next, Sakura. Iruka marked Sasuke off the roll. Transform. Sakura also turned into Iruka. Beat that, Ino pig, inner Sakura thought as Iruka marked Sakura off. Before anyone else could go, the door opened to reveal the third Hokage. Lord Third, Iruka said as all the students looked at him. Don't mind me, Iruka. I'm just here to bring you a new student. His name is Naruto. The Hokage stepped aside and in walked a blonde boy who was the same age as the rest of them. He had 3 whiskers on each of his cheeks. He had blue eyes and a blonde hair. He was dressed in a simple, tight black shirt with navy blue trousers and ninja sandals. His face was stern and mature. He looked very wise for his age, and you could tell he was strong. His muscles were faintly visible as the shirt he wore clung to him. Wow. He saw it, where the thought, don't tell me it's gonna be one of these stories. Thoughts of all the girls in the room. They all mentally fangirled. It's gonna be one of these. Who would have thought that they would be in a classroom with 2 of the most attractive dudes in the village? Hey, my name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. The third Hokage stopped Naruto quickly. Naruto Uzumaki, the third reintroduced, and Naruto gave him a quizzical look before nodding slightly. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Nice to meet you. I'm new here and I don't know anyone, he said a little shyly, although it was an act. He had already picked out Sasuke Uchiha, Ino Yamanaka, Hinata Hyuga, Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akamichi, and Kiba Inuzuka because he recognized their shared looks with their parents whom he had met. And Sasuke, well, anyone that didn't know him was clearly not from the village. Flashback. Naruto, I have a mission for you. The council has forced me to do this. From now on, you are to cover your Ambu tattoo. The council wants you to enter the academy and protect the last Uchiha. We cannot let the Uchiha clan disappear or for the bloodline to be lost. I'm sorry, Naruto. I know you'd rather be doing S-rank assassinations, but I can't convince the council otherwise. Naruto nodded his head. He knew the council would ask him this favor. It was to be expected, Gramps. Sooner or later. Naruto bowed his head and shunshined out of the office. Flashback end. So, Naruto, can you do the transformation jutsu? Iruka asked. The Hokage stepped forward. You don't need to test him on his knowledge of the academy jutsu right now. Naruto's a special case. A lot of the guys in the class snickered, taking it to mean Naruto wasn't able to perform the jutsu. He raised his hands. Transform. In a puff of smoke, he transformed himself into the Fourth Hokage. Iruka gasped. Lord Fourth? But how do you know what he looks like? Iruka asked. Here's inside. There are pictures of the previous Hokage in the office. Naruto released the hinge and turned back into himself. Everyone was actually impressed, except they didn't know what the 4th Hokage looked like, but he looked close enough to the mountain carving that they didn't bother questioning it. After the Hokage left the classroom and the rest of the students completed the transformation jutsu, Iruka got them all to sit down again, except there was a sudden shuffling of girls gravitating towards Naruto because they thought he was more welcoming than Sasuke. Let's go over some shinobi history, Iruka said as he pulled out a map and stuck it in the board. Naruto was bored. He knew a lot of the history anyway. Sitting beside him was a blonde girl which he knew was Ino, and a lavender-haired girl which he recognized as Hinata. Hi, I'm Ino, she said as she looked at him. Boy, is he cute, she squealed inwardly. Aye, let's be friends, Naruto said happily, as he looked at her with a smile. Ino froze, blushing madly, and all the other girls save Hinata were glaring at her. After all, cute guy just answered her. When they kinda expected him to be like Sasuke, ignore everyone. My name's Hinata, Hinata said hesitantly and quietly. Hinata? Well then I'll just be your friend too, Naruto said as he turned to look at the reddening Hinata. She fainted right there, not because she was a fangirl. Naruto could have laughed, but he decided against it. After all, he didn't want to upset anyone on his first day. Looking at the window, he sighed and turned back to Iruka-sensei. Naruto. Naruto opened his eyes. Huh? What? Naruto said as he blinked his eyes rapidly to get rid of his fatigue. He had fallen asleep in the middle of class, but luckily no one had noticed, except for the person whose shoulder he had been sleeping on, and everyone but Iruka. Iruka had just dismissed the class and all the girls were crowding around Naruto, a little jealous he hadn't fallen asleep on their shoulder. Naruto immediately sat up, a little embarrassed. Sorry, Ino, Naruto said as he scratched the back of his head. Ino was blushing like crazy. It's fine. You can sleep on my shoulder whenever, Ino replied. Suddenly, all the girls were shouting, no fair. Sleep on... Oh my god. Why would you write this? Anyways, sleep on my shoulder next time, Naruto. I want a turn, Naruto mentally face-palmed. I gotta go, Naruto said quickly as he excused himself, running from the fangirls. He left his jacket on the chair. Meanwhile, everyone started questioning Ino about Naruto and Hinata left. Dang, they're all so crazy, Naruto said as he ran all the way to the Hokage's office. I'm back, Gramps, he shouted, ignoring the current Genin team who were turning in their mission. It was of course Team Guy. Hiruzen turned to look at Naruto. Please wait a minute. Alright, Team Guy, you guys are dismissed for the rest of the day. Yes, now let's go do some youthful training. Yes, Guy Sensei. That's my Lee. Guy Sensei. Lee! Cut it out, Tenten screamed at them before she dragged them both out of the office. I love Guy and Henry, they're awesome. You were so embarrassing, she yelled once they were outside. Naruto chuckled as did Hiruzen. So, how was it? Hiruzen asked. Naruto looked around, making sure no one was in the office. I don't know how. I fell asleep, Naruto said. But nothing happened anyway. Hiruzen sighed. Tomorrow is the Genin exams, which is why I've given you this mission now. Because I know you wouldn't be able to sit through the whole year learning what you already know. Hiruzen smiled as the boy jumped. Yes. Okay, bye Gramps, Naruto said as he dashed out. Shoot, my jacket, Naruto thought before he raced off to the academy. Running in the sun and Anbu forgetting his jacket? Not a very good Ambu. Running in the sun certainly made him sweat. And his black shirt clung to his stomach so tightly that Naruto thought about changing before he actually got to the academy. And he decided against it. After all, he was gonna take a bath after he got his jacket anyway. He arrived just in time to see the girls leaving the academy. Hey, Ino, he called out. He heard a squeal as Ino ran from the crowd. Every other girl glared at her. Why did Naruto only call her out? Have you seen my jacket? Naruto asked, seeing all of the girls stare at him while blushing, but he was oblivious to the fact that because the shirt was clinging to him, it showed off some of his body. Here, Ino said as she handed him his jacket. Thanks, Naruto said as he moved to the shade of the tree. Unconsciously, subconsciously, every girl moved with him. Man, today's hot, Naruto said, forgetting himself momentarily and those surrounding him and where he was. Don't you agree, Inoichi? He asked as he took off his shirt and put his jacket on. The girls, oh my god. The girls all blushed madly seeing his... I'm not reading this. Inoichi? Ino asked, not sure she heard right. Naruto snapped out of his daydreaming. Oh, I said Ino, he replied, trying to bluff his way out. Oh, Ino blushed even more and looked down at the ground. Why'd you take your shirt off? She finally asked, the question all the girls wanted to know. Naruto turned a bit red. It was hot. I'm gonna shower now. Bye, Naruto quickly said as he ran off. Oh god, what have I done? Thought she was her father and we were on a mission for a moment there. Oh my god. She had a twin sister, so I got confused and screamed their dad at its finest. Naruto raced home, trying to forget the embarrassment. Oh, stop, please. He heard a voice that sounded vaguely familiar, crying out, "Oh, well, you look quite hideous with those pale eyes." "Freak," a man shouted. "It's fine though, no one's gonna save you now, precious Hyuga." The voice continued to spit out. Naruto stopped and ran towards the voice he could hear. "Hey," Naruto shouted. "Let her go." Naruto arrived to see a few villagers glaring at Hinata. As Naruto approached them, someone kicked at his feet, trying to trip him over. He jumped up, expertly dodging it at the last second, but then he saw one of the villagers swinging a katana at him. His eyes widened as the katana slashed across his chest, tearing his jacket and slightly cutting into his skin. Drawing his own katana, he swiped and disarmed the villager quickly. "Leave," he growled. The villagers stared in shock before they scrambled out of sight. "You alright?" Naruto asked as Hinata hugged herself, shaking. She looked up and managed a weak smile. "I'm fine, thank you." Then she noticed that Naruto was wounded. Naruto took off his slashed jacket and sighed. "It wasn't you." And now he couldn't really wear it anymore. Hinata turned slightly red as Naruto wasn't wearing his black shirt, but when she saw the long gash across his chest, she got concerned. "Naruto, your chest." Naruto smiled at her show of concern. "I'm fine," he said, as he took a long piece of cloth and his water bottle. Opening the cap, he poured the bottle. He poured the water on the gash, gasping in pain, before he quickly tried to clean it out. Then he wrapped the cloth around the gash and tied it up securely. "There, all better, Hinata," Naruto said as he stood back up. Hinata looked up and noticed his abs for the first time, as well as the defined muscle on his body. The cloth that was wrapped around his left bicep. For a 13-year-old, he must be really strong. "Wait, what, Hinata, why are you thinking that?" Hinata turned redder. "Naruto, what's the matter?" Naruto started to say, but then his words slurred and his vision went blurry. "Hinata?" Naruto said as he fell to the ground. "And get poison, why?" Naruto thought as his consciousness slipped away. "Naruto!" Hinata cried out, but he was already unconscious. There was a sudden rustle and a Hyuga dropped down in front of her. "Lady Hinata," the Hyuga said as he stared at Naruto. "Did he hurt you?" She shook her head. "You saved me. One of the villagers cut him with a sword and now he's fainted," Hinata explained, and Naruto and the Hyuga nodded. Naruto is like an awful Ambu today, bro. He's the worst Ambu I've seen. Ambu just keeps taking L's, man. Every time they show up, they just die. And Naruto is just following that path. "Come, let's take him to Lord Hiashi," the Hyuga said as he lifted the unconscious 13-year-old onto his shoulder and led Hinata to the Hyuga compound. "Oh yeah, sure, don't take them to, I don't know, a hospital?" "Yeah, Hiashi, that's who you should take him to." Naruto slowly opened his eyes. Every muscle in his body screamed in pain when he tried to move, and he cried out. His vision cleared, and he noticed he was in a large room where multiple people were surrounding him. "Am I at the hospital?" Naruto thought, which should be true, like if you really think about it, but it's not. So, "I see you're awake," a stern voice spoke, and Naruto tried to turn his head to see who was talking to him. Again, a lance of pain shot through his body, and he gasped out, "Don't move around much. The katana that gave you the gash was coated in poison that we're still trying to identify in order to give you a suitable antidote." The stern man spoke before he moved into Naruto's view. So some random villager had a katana coated in poison, and he decided to slash it at some child from his own village? Leave people be wildin', bro. "Lord Hiashi," Naruto muttered, feeling a little faint before another wave of pain pulsed over him. He gritted his teeth and felt a firm hand grip his own tightly, giving him comfort. "Thank you for protecting Hinata." Naruto's eyes widened slightly. Hiashi had never been known to show much of anything. always preferring to remain as emotionless as cold as possible. Then Naruto felt an even more intense and excruciating pain. He screamed out loud before slowly losing consciousness. Dang, why was I so careless? Same question I was asking. Naruto thought as he struggled to write down the name of the poison before passing out. Hiyashi's eyes widened when Naruto finished writing out the poison's name and passed out. Taking the name, Hiashi called his doctors over. They looked at it and turned to leave immediately. Hurry, Hiashi ordered. Naruto's screams could be heard from all over the Hyuga compound. Hinata jumped, startled by the scream as she sat in her room, preparing for the academy written test. Naruto, Hinata whispered, as she stared at the slashed jacket which belonged to Naruto, that she was currently holding. She felt tears pricking her eyes. All because of her. No, all because she was stupid and left his jacket first of all, which is careless in itself, and then he decided to get slashed by a katana. By a villager, not even like a ninja or anything. Anyways, all because she was too weak to defend herself. There was a knock on her bedroom door. Come in, Hinata said as she quickly hit the jacket. The door slid open and walked in her father. He came in, hugged Hinata, which surprised her greatly. Her father had never shown her sympathy before. I'm sorry, was all her father said, and she felt herself tear up. I'm sorry I've been such a bad father, but after today's incident, I've just realized how selfish I've been. Not looking out for you or what you want, not giving you any attention. I'm truly sorry, Hiashi whispered into Hinata's ear. Hinata grabbed her father's hand. Is Naruto alright? Hinata asked. Hiashi saw a look of concern on her face and noticed the very edge of the slashed jacket peeking out from underneath the pillow. She really likes him, doesn't she? Naruto should be fine. He gave us the name of the poison, so we should be able to give him the antidote in time. And it's a cheap poison that only affects your movement in the long run, by causing your muscles to overwork to the point they start getting sore. Hiashi gritted his teeth and clenched his fists in anger. And they were going to use it on my Hinata, how dare they? Anyway, I'll leave you to prepare now, Hiashi said and stood up before brushing some of the dust off his knees before he left. Iruka walked to the front of the class. All of the academy students were sat there waiting expectantly. It was the day of the academy tests after all, and each one of them wanted to do their best and become ninja. Iruka realized there were missing students. Where's Naruto? Iruka asked. Except all the girls were too busy wondering to answer. The door slid open and two Hyuga were supporting Naruto and helping him walk into class. Iruka immediately got concerned and rushed over to help Naruto. What happened to him? Iruka asked, a little shocked that Hiashi and Hisashi were the ones supporting Naruto. Hiashi leaned closer and whispered into Iruka's ear. He was poisoned. It will definitely take time before the effects of the poison wear off. Iruka gulped and nodded. Who would poison a 13-year-old boy? That's what I'm saying, bro. These villagers are wilding. Iruka guided Naruto into a seat next to Ino and Hinata. Naruto sat in the chair, his head slumped down. Everyone stared at him, but he didn't move a single bit. It worried Iruka to no end. Iruka-sensei, will he be fine? One of the bolder girls asked, inconspicuously checking him out. Ino glared at her, but didn't say anything. Iruka nodded. He's just tired, Iruka said, making up a semi-believable excuse. Alright, let's get to the written test. Iruka handed everyone a piece of paper except for Naruto. Naruto, since you've only been here one day, do you want to take this test? Naruto's head moved up ever so slightly. His face was contorted in pain. Yes, he breathed out. Iruka looked at him for a moment. Okay. Iruka gave him the test. Alright, begin. Everyone put their heads down and started taking the test. The classroom was silent, but Iruka noticed that Naruto hadn't even touched the paper. All of a sudden, there was a loud thump followed by Hinata gasping and dropping her pencil. Naruto had fallen forward onto the table, his face on the desk, and he was completely unconscious. Naruto, Iruka shouted as he made his way to him. Naruto? Hyuga shook him gently before holding Naruto upright. His eyes were closed, his breathing slowed, and his heartbeat faint. Flashback. That dang poison's still making its way out of his system, so don't be surprised if he suddenly fades. It takes a toll on his body, but he should be able to bounce back and recover. It was a weak poison that overworks the muscle in his body. By rights, he should be able to move for he shouldn't be able to move for a week, but because it took some time to prepare the antidote, he is able to move after one day. Hiashi whispered. Iruka gulped and nodded. I'll see what I can do. Flashback ends. Iruka carried Naruto over to his desk where he lay him down on it. He lifted Naruto's shirt, obviously to all the eyes and the sudden squealing of the blushing fangirls. Iruka's eyes widened when he saw the abs and defined muscle that Naruto had. What on earth has he been doing? Don't tell me he's been training under Lord Third. He can't be that prodigy that the Lord Third was talking about when he was drunk, right? Iruka shook his head. No, that's just silly. Lord Third wouldn't put someone so skilled into the academy. He placed his ear on his chest and listened to his heartbeat. It was slightly irregular. He turned Naruto over and put his ear onto Naruto's back. His breathing was shallow and quick. Alright, stop the written test, Iruka called out as he rushed around collecting the papers. We will continue this later. Take a break, but don't leave this room. Iruka rushed out of the academy and headed to the hospital, where he should have been taken days ago. Surely the legendary Sanin Tsunade wasn't drunk off sake and could extract the remaining poison and heal him properly. Iruka rushed into the hospital and ran to the receptionist. Is Lady Tsunade here? He asked out of breath. The receptionist looked up, startled. People only asked for her when they needed immediate attention on their patient. Yes, she's here. The receptionist stood up and opened the door to the office behind her. Shizune, Lady Tsunade, someone needs you. There was a sudden rush and two medical ninja rushed out. Iruka, Shizune asked, surprised. I need your help. One of my students has been poisoned and he's fainted in class. His breathing is shallow and his heart is beating irregularly, even after the antidote was given. Tsunade looked up. Who was looking after him? She asked. The Hyuga were. Tsunade nodded. Dang it, the Hyuga are great medical ninja because of their natural chakra control due to the extreme chakra precision required to perform the gentle fist technique. Whoever poisoned him probably mixed several poisons in. The antidote should have been effective immediately. Tsunade rushed out towards the academy, with Iruka and Shizune following closely behind. No, let me touch him. The girls were all shoving and arguing around the unconscious Naruto. The moment Iruka had run off, the girls had all swarmed around him and lifted up his shirt to see his abs. Ino and Hinata were desperately trying to stop the crazy fangirls from violating Naruto's privacy when Naruto awoke. Hinata? Naruto called out weakly. His vision was still not 100%, but Kurama's healing and chakra, he had finally expelled all the poison that was in him. He had realized after the antidote was given that it was a mixture of different poisons. He felt a few fingers slide along his stomach and he swallowed. What's going on? He asked, his throat a little dry, making his voice slightly husky. A lot of the fangirls swooned and fell over, feeling faint. Naruto, Hinata cried and hugged him, feeling like she was going to cry again. Ino stared and couldn't help but feel jealous. Because Naruto was a blonde like her, she quickly started gaining feelings for him. What? That is a goofy excuse. Feelings for him. And with it started to find Sasuke boring. Naruto, Ino cried out, trying to get his attention. Naruto sat up groggily. He felt a little dizzy, but he could finally move without feeling pain. He quickly pulled his shirt back to cover his stomach, ignoring the jealous looks from Sasuke and Kiba. Jealous looks from Sasuke, right? There was a sudden pounding of feet and Iruka burst back into the classroom with Shizune and Tsunade only to stare in shock. What? How? Iruka stuttered. Tsunade immediately recognized them. Oh my god, Naruto, you idiot, she shouted out. Don't scare me like that, okay? You know Shizune and I don't like that. Shizune stuttered. Flashback. Many doctors were rushing around, cleaning a room ready for the newest patients. It was an Ambu member and he was being carried into the room by the third Hokage, following closely with Shizune and Tsunade. The Ambu was a small boy and they realized he was just a boy and he was covered in blood with multiple wounds and gashes visible. Some of them were so deep you could see the whites of his bones. Danzo rushed into the hospital with a couple of Root and Ambu members with him. It was spectacular, the amount of people worried for the boy's well-being. This kid had changed Danzo, the old war hawk. Danzo used to be cold, but after Naruto became an Ambu, Danzo had somehow turned into a more compassionate man. It was really weird though, everyone agreed. Naruto had this special power to make friends with anyone. Rumor had it that he even befriended the demon sealed inside of him. Flashback end. Shizune tugged Tsunade's sleeve. We need to go back to the hospital, Shizune said, and Tsunade sighed. Let's go, Tsunade said as she ruffled Naruto's hair one last time. See you around, kid. Tsunade grinned at him and turned and left. Naruto was smiling too. He hadn't visited Tsunade in some time, and he was pleasantly surprised she wasn't drunk on sake. Everyone stared in shock, trying to register what they had seen. That kid knows Lady Tsunade? Iruka screamed in his mind before calming down. Now that's all over, let's get back to the test, Iruka said, as all the students walked back to their seats. Iruka gave everyone their own test paper and everyone got to work. Iruka-sensei, Naruto put his hand up only 10 minutes later and Iruka walked up to him. I'm done, Naruto said and handed him the paper. Everyone was shocked. He had only been in class for one day and he had fallen asleep. There was no way he had finished. I'm not making that joke. Unless everything was wrong, they all turned back to focus on their own papers again. Iruka's jaw hit the ground. Impossible. Iruka scratched his head in shock. Naruto had gotten the perfect answer for each question. There was simply no questioning of any of the answers Naruto had given. Naruto sighed happily as Iruka walked back to his desk, puzzled. Naruto smiled at Iruka one last time before he leaned to his left and laid his head on Hinata's shoulder, startling her greatly. Hinata's face turned a little red. Sorry, please let me sleep. Your shoulder's so comfortable. Naruto whispered and closed his eyes. Hinata turned redder, but Ino noticed and pouted. He wasn't going to sleep on her shoulder, but he was going to sleep on Hinata's. Ino thought about the cruelty of the world before gazing one last time at his perfect face. Those whiskers and his perfect body, what she could see and had seen, and turned back to the test. God, if he was any cuter, she'd die. She screamed in her mind. I'd die, she screamed in her mind, while surreptitious surreptitiously glancing at Hinata, who was busy finishing her test. No way, I'm going to Google that. Hold up. I am slow. It's surreptitiously glancing at Hinata, who was busy finishing her test. Alright, time's up, Iruka said, and everyone stopped writing. Hand in your test papers, please. Iruka walked around, collecting all the tests from the students. Hinata shook Naruto gently. Naruto, wake up, Hinata said, as she tried to wake him up. I don't want to. Your shoulder is so warm and comfortable, Naruto murmured as he drifted in and out of sleep. Hinata noticed all the glares that were sent her way and she whimpered. Naruto shot up instantly. What's wrong? He asked Hinata, as she stared into his blue eyes. She felt faint and turned away quickly. It's nothing, she replied. Naruto looked at her skeptically, before he turned to face the teacher. Iruka chuckled nervously. Okay, time for the next portion of the test. We will be testing you on the clone jutsu. Everyone please sit and wait for your name to be called up for the test, Iruka said as he piled all the written tests together and started to look through them. Another academy teacher entered. Sasuke Uchiha, he called out, and Sasuke stood up, ignoring the squeals of the fangirls, and followed the teacher to the next room. Naruto looked around, bored. Everyone was tense and nervous for the clone jutsu test. He yawned again. Just wanna sleep. It's too boring. Grams Hokage, why the heck am I doing this? Naruto mentally screamed out before he lay his head on the table to sleep. Oh no, Naruto, please sleep on my shoulder, a girl said, randomly popping up in front of him. Naruto raised his head. All of a sudden, a whole crowd of girls approached him and begged for his attention. He yawned and waved them off with his hand. Ino stared nervously at him. It was certainly an interesting one. She felt like she might be able to get his attention, seeing as he already slept on her shoulder once. You can sleep on my shoulder again if you'd like, Ino said shyly. All the girls tense, waiting to hear Naruto's reply. Naruto himself turned his head towards her and looked at her. Sorry, I'm not sleepy anymore, he said with a suggestive glare at all the girls around him, and they all gulped. Ino could have screamed in frustration. They all ruined her chance. Naruto then did something that surprised everyone. "So how's your day, Hinata?" he asked. The poor girl in question turned red before fainting, while every other girl was busy glaring at her. "Hinata?" Naruto called out, but she was out cold. He grimaced and pulled her head from the hard wooden table onto his warm chest, as that should be more comfortable. And pretty soon Naruto fell asleep, either oblivious to the glares or just ignoring them. "Naruto!" Iruka shouted. Shout echoed around the classroom, and everyone looked at Naruto, who was waking up slowly. Hinata was struggling to move from his chest, partly because he was hugging her with his arms so protectively that she couldn't move. He blinked his eyes a few times before noticing everyone staring at him. "What?" he asked, yawning. Iruka was a little red-faced as he looked at Naruto. If he didn't know any better, he would say Naruto and Hinata were couples. Dang Kakashi and his Icha Icha books. But I need to borrow the second one from him. No, wait, not now. Maybe later. Iruka was thinking as Naruto stood up. "It's time for Hinata's test," the teacher said, and Hinata quickly freed herself from his arms and rushed out of the room, completely embarrassed. Naruto could feel the looks coming from the girls, but he decided to ignore them. Pulling out a scroll, he quickly unsealed with a few hand signs that he wove faster than anyone could see, and then he started to look through its contents. Although he was posing as a Genin student, he would still undergo Ambu operations when Sasuke was in the village and not on a mission. At least that's what the council had decided. S-rank mission. Anbu Fox. Detail: assassination. Location: Land of Snow. Target: Sensui Karashi. Priority: S-rank missing nin. Proceed with caution. Commissioner Daimyo, Land of Snow. Approved by Danzo. Naruto looked at the approval signature and raised an eyebrow. Danzo. Hanzo normally sent his foundation members to assassinate people and didn't usually send Ambu members. Admittedly, it was unlike Danzo, but sometimes Danzo knew his foundation members wouldn't be sufficient. He also looked at the letter that was given to him alongside the scroll before he had gone into the academy that day. It was a letter of pardon from the Third Hokage, meaning he was supposed to go after this target right now. Standing up, he gave Iruka the letter, not caring about everyone's stunned faces as he left to get ready. Once out of sight, he shunshin into the Foundation headquarters where Danzo was waiting. "Lord Danzo," Naruto said respectfully with a bow. "How is Sasuke Uchiha?" Danzo asked. Naruto raised his head. "Sasuke's fine. He should become Genin with no troubles," Naruto replied evenly. Danzo nodded. "Your target is S-rank missing nin. He has no known bloodline techniques, but is extremely strong. He's currently threatening the daimyo of the Land of Snow into marriage, and he wants to control the land and start up a ninja village. Please eliminate him. The Land of Snow has personally asked help from the Leaf. He has 3 chakra natures: wind, fire, and lightning." Danzo finished briefing Naruto and his mission, as Naruto was dressing himself up in appropriate Ambu attire. "And please, be careful, Fox," Danzo whispered, just loud enough for Naruto to hear. Naruto heard, but gave no recognition that he did so. He was now on an assassination mission and he would not be distracted. The next day, all the academy students who had passed the test arrived and took their seats, flashing their headbands around proudly. Then they all noticed Naruto. All the girls were relieved. They all wanted Naruto on their Genin team, and they were all happy he had passed. Ino and Hinata took their seats next to Naruto, but they both noticed right away that he had a cloth wrapped tightly around his right thigh, and he also had another one wrapped around his right arm, and he had a few burn marks on his face. "What happened to you?" Ino asked out of concern. Naruto turned to look at her. "Just a cooking accident," he bluffed, and Ino nodded. Hinata was surprised. "Naruto cooked?" Iruka... Nah, I'm not saying that either. Iruka walked to the front of the classroom. "Okay, time for the teams to be announced. Team 1. Naruto dozed off, trying to catch up on some sleep, but then he felt someone tapping on his shoulder. Turning around, he glared at the girl, but didn't go back to sleep. Team 7. Naruto Uzumaki. Everyone instantly sat up straighter, wondering who would be on his team. Sakura Haruno. There was a sudden scream as Sakura cheered. "Hey, at least I got one," Sakura thought, and every girl was staring enviously at her. And Sasuke Uchiha. Sakura fainted. both in her team? All the girls immediately stirred, shouting but not being fair about it not being fair that Sakura got both Naruto and Sasuke, but Iruka wasn't listening. After all, the teams were read out. Iruka left the classroom, and one by one the Jonin sensei started to arrive and take their teams. Naruto just sat by Hinata, both of them waiting for their team sensei to arrive. Hinata was shaking a tiny bit, and Naruto noticed it immediately. Kiba and Shino were busy talking, and Sakura was trying to get to talk to Sasuke. "What's wrong, Hinata?" Naruto asked, worried about her shaking. She calmed down a tiny bit and blushed. By Naruto's use of the suffix chan, which I'm not reading out, it was normally used in affection, and she noticed that he only added it to her name. "Shino scares me, and Kiba likes to be rough. Hey, yo." Hinata whispered as she buried her head into his neck, sobbing quietly. She wanted to be on a team with Naruto because he made her feel safe, loved, and wanted. Naruto's warmth alone was like an extra layer of blankets. She didn't realize who she was crying on, and she immediately sat up with a gasp. "I'm sorry, Naruto," she apologized. Naruto gave her a smile as he wiped the tears away. "Hey, it'll be fine. We're friends, aren't we?" Naruto said, comforting Hinata and drawing the attention of everyone in the room. Hinata nodded, embarrassed of the attention she was receiving from everyone in the room. "Tell you what, I'll come by your house for dinner. Your father invited me anyway, so I want to go." He gave her a warm smile, and she almost melted. Her heart stopped beating for a millisecond when the sunlight shone through the window and illuminated Naruto's face, making him look like an angel and outlining all of his features for her. Teammate, a female Jonin, walked into the room with black hair and red eyes. Kiba and Shino immediately jumped down to meet her. "Where's your third?" Kurenai asked. Kiba pointed at Hinata. Kurenai turned to look and saw the handsome young boy next to Hinata, a slitting image of Minato. He couldn't possibly be even more handsome than Minato, could he? Kurenai thought to herself as she looked at him. "Hinata, your Jonin sensei's here." Naruto breathed out quietly, his husky voice making Hinata shiver from the love she held for the boy. "You've known him for 2 days, calm down." Hinata nodded and stood up shakily, before joining her team and walking out. Naruto sighed and looked out the window, ignoring the glances that Sakura and Sasuke were shooting at him. Team 7. Kakashi stuck his head in through the door. The 3 remaining genin looked at their sensei and smiled. "My first impressions. Interesting. Meet me on the roof." Kakashi disappeared and they all walked up to the roof. The house was quiet. Hiashi sat in his seat by the table, watching as Hanabi, Hinata, and Naruto sat down. They waited a bit in awkward silence before Hiashi started eating. Hanabi is so fine in Boruto, bro. She is top tier. Hanabi's like goated. Everyone else started eating. In Boruto though. In Boruto. Gotta clarify that. Everyone else started eating. "So, Naruto," Hiashi said as he ate. He looked over to the boy. What a fine young man he will grow up to be. He's already Ambu at his age. No doubt he'll become this village's greatest shinobi. He saw Naruto look at him. "It's come to my attention that you don't really have a home, but an apartment," Hiashi started. He didn't know how to best go about the thing he was going to discuss. Naruto nodded. "I live in an apartment, Lord Hiashi," Naruto replied respectfully. Hiashi approved of his daughter's secret love for Naruto. "Well, for saving my daughter, I'd like to offer you residence within the Hyuga compound. Of course, it will be temporary, just until you've found the perfect home to Hiashi choked on his food when he realized what he was about to say. "I'd say this, Naruto has changed me completely. Not that I mind." Hiashi cleared his throat. "Until you found a proper house to live in. That is," Hiashi finished. Naruto looked at Hiashi in surprise. The Hyuga head had undoubtedly come under some interesting changes in the last 24 hours since he had seen him. "I'd be honored, Lord Hiashi," Naruto replied. "Yes," Hiashi thought. "Wait, what? Never mind. It's only temporary." "Oh, who am I kidding? It's only temporarily until he gets with my daughter." "Okay, pull yourself together, Hiashi, you old..." "Hey, yo." Nah, this author is wilding, bro. Stop reading those Icha books. Hiashi cleared his throat again and are in silence. Hanabi and Hinata were shocked their father was never like this before. This story is something, man. I'll have a special room prepared for you, Hiashi said. Right next to Hinata's room for your convenient. I mean, so he can better protect the clan heir. Jeez, what am I thinking? What are you thinking, bro? That's weird. Hiashi continued to plan with a slight sprint in his step, one could say. Naruto had finished moving his stuff over. Of course, he would have to stay at the Hyuga compound and protect the clan heir. Not that Hiashi would have petitioned the council to let Naruto do that too, seeing as Hiashi was also part of the council and the Hyuga are an important clan to Konoha. Naruto thought as he entered his new room within the Hyuga compound. It was right next to Hinata's room. The paranoid geezer, Naruto sighed. It's not like Hinata isn't surrounded by a clan of Byakugan users. Naruto placed his clothes in a neat pile in the wardrobe provided. Sitting down at the desk, he lit a candle, pulled out a brush, and began to write in his notebook. I must confess, I didn't expect that such a hard time as I had against Sensui Karashi. His mastery over the three chakra natures was truly impressive, and I knew at once I was versing a master killer. He had killed before. I was very certain, and defined by the way he moved and casted his jutsu. His timing was impeccable, and his jutsu were all powerful. There was no hesitation, no bragging between jutsu. He was the epitome of a cold and calculated, life ender, knowing when to strike and fade away. Aware that even a single hesitation can allow his opponent to cast a Ken or jutsu. He excelled in his mind games. He could talk about peace a lot. He would attain peace with one governing body, to rule over the entire shinobi world. That was his dream, to play God. But how can one truly attain peace by conquering all? Is it not in human nature to go against those who strive for a dictatorship? Those who strive to rule and crush all opposition? Is it not that reason why there are multiple villages, each with their own ideals? I don't know. The answer continues to elude me. Maybe one day I'll find someone who can truly tell me what I desire to know. Naruto set his writing brush down and began to wait for the ink to dry. He only wrote a sort of diary when he was sent off on Ambu missions to assassinate ninja. It seemed every ninja he was set to end had interesting ideas, and he would remember and record them, knowing it may finally lead him to discover a way to attain peace within the five great nations. There was a sudden flash of thunder and lightning across the sky. Then the rain fell, thick and heavy, pattering drowned out by the constant drumming of the rain against the walls and windows, with lightning flashes and thunder roaring across the sky every minute. He blew the flames on the candle out and went to his bed. Taking off his shirt and pants, wearing just his boxers, he went to sleep, pondering what the ninja had said before Naruto had ended him. Flashback. And how would you find peace? Karashi asked. You who do not have an answer, yet seek answers from others and judge them by those answers. Naruto looked at him. Not sure. This is why I seek people who have the answers. To see if what they believe will lead to peace is what I believe in too. Flashback ends. Naruto heard a muffled scream and some crying coming from Hinata's room. Then a few moments later, the door to his room slowly opened and Hinata's head popped in. Naruto? She asked, an audible tremor in her voice. What's up? Naruto asked as he lay in his bed. May I have some company tonight? Hinata asked. Another flash and lightning and the roar of the thunder afterwards made Hinata flinch violently, and she started to shake. Naruto was concerned. What's wrong? He asked as he sat up. Hinata was shaking and crying as she moved to sit next to Naruto. It's just... my mother was killed in front of me during a night like this once. I was weak and I couldn't do anything. I'm scared, Hinata admitted as she cried into Naruto's shoulder. Naruto wrapped an arm around her and quietly patted her head. It's fine. He tried to comfort the Hyuga clan heir, but he didn't know what to do. He was trained assassin for crying out loud. Grams Hokage, what would you do in my place? Naruto thought as Hinata cried and flinched every time she heard the thunder. Naruto laid her hand on his and stood up. Hinata looked up at him in fear. "Please don't leave," she begged. Naruto smiled at her. "I'm not leaving you. I'm gonna watch over you all night long," Naruto said as he went up and closed his bedroom door. He got back and sat on the floor next to the bed, placing his back against the wall. "Are you going to sleep, Naruto?" Hinata asked. Naruto nodded. I'll be fine here," he said. "No, just sleep on the bed," Hinata said as she blushed. She moved over to the edge of the bed. "It's your bed anyway. It's just a nuisance and a burden." "I'm just a nuisance and a burden. Here, I'll make room for you," Hinata said before Naruto stopped her. "Thank you, Hinata, but you're not a nuisance or a burden. You could never be one to me," Naruto said with a small smile as he climbed onto the bed. Never say never. Never say. I'll stop. He wrapped his arm around Hinata protectively. "I won't let anything happen to you," he said as he turned to Hinata and held her against his chest. "Sleep, Hinata. I'll protect you no matter what." Hinata was blushing red, but she finally managed to sleep. Close proximity to Naruto made her forget the fear of thunder and lightning. Naruto, however, could feel his heart beating fast. "What is that feeling? A warm glow on my chest. It feels completely different from anything I've felt before. What am I feeling?" he thought as he stared at the beautiful face of Hinata, which was illuminated by the moonlight. She was sleeping on his chest, breathing softly, and he brushed her lavender hair away from her face gently. "She's so gorgeous," Naruto thought as he continued to watch her. "Focus, she's only here because she's scared of thunder," Naruto responded to himself. Hinata woke up the next morning, feeling something warm and a little hard touching her face. Nah, this isn't a great way to start this. She opened her eyes and realized she had fallen asleep on Naruto's chest. Oh, okay. That's not that bad. Then she realized that Naruto was wearing nothing. Okay. And she could see every part of him. She felt herself turn red. He was so, buff for a 13-year-old, Hinata was thinking. She tried to move but was locked into place by his arms. She could remember what Naruto did last night. "Don't worry, I'll protect you no matter what." Hinata blushed. Naruto was still sleeping and she felt happy. He really did protect her. She traced his muscles on his chest for a moment before she stopped herself. "Nope, mustn't do that, or Naruto will think I'm weird," Hinata thought to herself. She felt someone brush her hair away from her eyes and she almost shrieked. It was Naruto. "Hello there," he spoke softly. He continued to brush the hair away from her face. "You're not weird. You're gorgeous. Anyone who can't see that is clearly blind." Naruto kinda blurted out by accident. Then Naruto sat up. "I've got to get up early. Kakashi sensei wants to put my team through a survival test today," Naruto said as he stretched and yawned. Hinata watched, entranced as his movements caused his muscles to flex involuntarily. He was one sexy mofo that everyone in the academy wanted to be with. The other being Sasuke. What's that?" Hinata asked as she pointed to the cloth that Naruto had tied around his left bicep. She noticed the other cloth around his arm and thigh were gone. Naruto looked at it. It's nothing," Naruto said as he pulled on a black shirt and grabbed his pants. "You should head back to your room," Naruto said, and Hinata nodded. She didn't know why she was still in Naruto's room. She dashed out, not wanting him to see her pajamas and being embarrassed already. Naruto chuckled. Hinata was pretty in every aspect, he thought. Meanwhile, in the master bedroom, Hiashi deactivated his Byakugan. With a look of extreme This is so weird. This is creepy. He practically pranced around the room. "Ha," he said. "My plan is working. I'm absolutely positively sure Naruto's falling for her." So, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke. Kakashi took out 2 bells. "I'm gonna give you guys this test. Whoever grabs the bell from me before lunchtime will become a genin. If not, then you will fail and get sent back to the academy." Everyone stared at him in shock. Well, namely Sasuke and Sakura. Naruto already knew this. But sensei, there's only two, Sakura protested. Kakashi gave her a smile. Precisely. That means one of you is guaranteed to fail and be sent back. Come at me with the intent to end me, or none of you would have the chance of touching the bells. Start. Kakashi shouted, and they all jumped away, hiding. Kakashi looked around. They've all hidden quite well, he thought. Naruto concealed himself in a tree and watched. Sakura was hiding in a bush when she heard someone whisper to her. Hey, Sakura. She turned around and saw Kakashi sensei. Then she screamed and fainted. Naruto snorted. Genjutsu. What a pitiful genjutsu that she fell for. Bro, shut up. You left your jacket and got slashed by a regular dude with a katana. He turned his attention to Sasuke. Sasuke was trading blows quite well with Kakashi. Then he jumped back and performed a tiger hand sign. Oh, fire style. Fire style, fireball jutsu. Sasuke blew a ball of fire at Kakashi and Kakashi disappeared. Naruto was impressed. Sasuke shouldn't normally have the chakra to pull off such a technique. Especially not yet, but he was an Uchiha. Earth style, headhunter jutsu. Kakashi grabbed Sasuke's foot from the ground and pulled him under, at the same time rising up out of the ground. Not good enough, Sasuke, Kakashi said as he went off, reading his book and looking for Naruto. Naruto waited till Kakashi was out of hearing and vision range before coming out from hiding. Sasuke, Naruto said as he approached him. Sasuke just looked up at him before looking away. I don't need your help, Sasuke said, but Naruto pulled him out of the ground. Whatever, Naruto said, as he walked off in a different direction. Sasuke turned to look at him. Kakashi sensei is that way, Sasuke said, pointing in the direction to which Naruto was heading. And do you think you can take on Kakashi sensei by yourself? Naruto questioned and Sasuke grimaced. I'm going to free Sakura from her genjutsu. Then we should try and get after him together, Naruto said. Although he normally wouldn't reveal the essence of this test, except that he was supposed to look after the last Uchiha, and that the Uchiha was supposed to become a ninja, by the council's decision. Okay, let's go, grumbled, as he followed Naruto. Good boy, Naruto smirked, before heading to Sakura, but the one thing that was in his mind the whole time was Hinata. What's he feeling last night? What and why and how? Naruto wanted to know. He had never experienced such a tension before in his life. The only thing close to this feeling was when he was nervous, except that he did that explain his fast beating heart whenever he looked at Hinata's face. Surely he wasn't nervous for her face. So what was it then that made him feel this way? Naruto waited till they were all ready. Sakura immediately blushed when she realized that Naruto and Sasuke were both staring at her. Come on, let's go, Naruto said as he dashed out of the bush, drawing a kunai and preparing to engage Kakashi. Sasuke and Sakura both rushed out as well, trying to flank him. Kakashi noticed the movement and he quickly put his book away. Withdrawing two kunai, he prepared to meet their blows. Hinata, you can do this, Hiashi said as he watched his daughter. Hiashi was attempting to teach her more of the Hyuga's gentle fist technique, but it was proving more difficult than he had imagined. Hiashi glanced beside him and noticed that Hiashi was training Neji too. Some time ago, Hiashi would have openly disputed his brother's decision, but now on this day and age, Naruto had changed him, and so he saw no problem with the branch house learning the Hyuga's gentle fist. He now saw it as a way of strengthening the clan. I can't do this, Hinata said, feeling like a failure. Hiashi sighed. It would take a miracle for Hinata to learn it. He knew. Hiashi looked like he was doing better with his son. Neji looked like one of those prodigies anyway. The front door to the Hyuga compound opened and immediately Hiashi and Hiashi both activated their Byakugan and turned to look. A tired Naruto was at the door, slowly taking off his shoes and resting it on the floor. Naruto sighed. It was roughly a day. Not only did he have to work together with a screaming fangirl Banshee, he also had to work with an arrogant Uchiha, and to top it off during the survival test, he had to play dumb with Kakashi so Kakashi wouldn't figure out that he was an Ambu. That resulted in him suffering multiple wounds that he would normally been able to avoid. Naruto was fatigued. He had secretly asked Rama not to heal him or to speed up his healing so that no one would suspect anything. His fatigue came from simply doing Ambu assignments the moment the survival test was over. Dons let him carry out multiple infiltration and spy missions in an attempt to find Orochimaru, but he was not in any of the secret bases they knew existed. They were instead filled with guards, traps, and experiments of Orochimaru that had tried to kill him. Naruto wanted some sleep. He had used a great deal of chakra and was slowly recovering from the chakra exhaustion. He walked past the room where Neji and Hinata were training. "Ah, Hinata, you may leave now," Hiashi said as he moved to the side to allow Hisashi full access to the room to continue teaching Neji. Naruto's head turned to the side the moment he heard Hinata's voice. "Naruto," Hinata said as she left the room. Naruto turned to face her, showing her the extent of his wounds. He had cuts all over his face and arms. Even being Anbu, it would be impossible to kill all of Orochimaru's curse mark experience without getting hurt. "Are you alright?" Hinata asked. Naruto gave her a weak grin. "I'm fine," Naruto answered before his eyes rolled to the back of his head and he fell. Hiashi watched with amusement. Naruto was certainly as stubborn as his mother. No doubt about it. He had even picked up Kushina's catchphrase. "Hinata, he will be fine. He is just tired," Hiashi said with a firm voice. The next few weeks passed by Naruto in a blur. Hinata was steadily improving in her use of the Hyuga clan's reverse gentle fist, and Naruto had been getting enough pay from his S-rank missions which he secretly undertook while still with his Genin team that he could afford to move out. However, he didn't want to, with Hiashi continually insisting for him to stay. He mused over the most recent mission with his team. Dang, why is that demon cat always needing to be found? He'd think that the owners would notice something. He took his brush out and began to write. He was still wondering about the wording of his Ambu mission report he was to submit to the Hokage tomorrow. There was a knock on the door and Naruto stopped his writing. "Come in," Naruto said, as he made himself look busy writing. It proved to be too effective. He had forgotten that he had come out of the shower in nothing but a towel, which he did not remedy after half an hour. So poor Hinata fainted. He stood up wearing only a towel around his waist. "Hinata? Oh," Naruto said as he realized the state that he was in. He laid the poor unconscious girl on his bed before he continued to write his report. He sighed, knowing that finally he would get a break from all the S-rank missions he had been taking per day just so he could earn money to move out. While he did enjoy the company of the Hyugas, he also had a suspicion that Hiashi was spying on him with his Byakugan. Fortunately for Naruto, he couldn't be more correct. Although the context for spying was different at least. Naruto had heard that the Hokage wanted to give his team a C-rank mission which involved the escort of a bridge builder, and so all the rookies had come together and decided to go have a party at the spa before 7. Gently, he moved to the bed that Hinata was laying on and shook her. "Hinata," he asked once she opened her eyes. Her face was flushed with red when she remembered what had happened. "Come on, we're gonna go to the spa party, remember?" She nodded, unsure of what to say. Everyone was waiting outside by the time Kakashi arrived. "Sorry I'm late. Kakashi started to make up a semi-believable excuse that he thought would work in such a situation, only to notice everyone's glares and he shut up. "Let's go already," shouted before eyeing Naruto. They had all planned to soak in the gender-locked spas for a while before wearing their swimsuits to soak in the gender-open spa and have their dinner, which Kakashi had used his slippery, smooth silver tongue to convince Asuma into taking care of. It was probably something along the lines of getting Kakashi and more importantly Kunai's undying respect and admiration. How Asuma had fallen for that was beyond Naruto. The girls and the boys separated in the changing rooms and the semi all respectively followed. And their senseis. I am slow. Kiba was the first to enter the spa, only needing to take off his clothes before wrapping a towel around his waist. Shino and Sasuke, Shikamaru, and Choji were also finished in similar fashions. They watched and scoffed as Kiba tested the spa's water with a foot before he removed his towel and slid in. Everyone followed suit, and they watched as Asuma and Kakashi entered. There were some mild surprises as Kakashi wasn't wearing his black mask. He traded it for a waterproof one that was white. Everyone face-palmed. "Where's Naruto?" Sasuke asked. Surprisingly, Sasuke was irritated that his self-proclaimed less impressive in every way rival was taking his time. Kakashi looked at him. He's still in the training room, Kakashi said, and not a moment later the door opened and the changing room's doors opened. Speak of the devil, Sasuke muttered under his breath. Naruto entered and closed the door to prevent any of the heat leaving the room. He looked at the all expectant faces. He was wrapped up completely in his towel. I'll be getting in shortly, Naruto said in an indifferent voice. Sasuke scowled. Tension-seeking dope, he muttered. They all talked, while eyeing Naruto out of the corner of their eyes. Naruto had sat himself down in one of the chairs, still wrapped in his towel. They couldn't see anything of his body apart from his arms and his legs. They all took note of the cloth wrapped around his left bicep. He withdrew a sheet of paper and his brush. What is he writing? Everyone thought as Naruto began to move his brush across the paper. Naruto could feel all the stares, but he ignored them all. He had to do it here. Nobody would question him that much, and they wouldn't be able to see what he was writing anyway. However, back at the Hyuga compound, he didn't exactly trust Hiashi not to spy on him when he was writing an official Ambu report. Quickly finishing his brush strokes, he set the piece of paper aside and put his brush back inside a box. Then he turned the piece of paper over and placed that box on top. Alright, I'm coming in, Naruto said. They all looked in disdain at him. Kakashi sighed and stood up, grabbing his towel and wrapping it around his waist. It's been 30 minutes already. We're moving over to the open spot to have dinner. Kunai is already there, Kakashi said as the rest of the guys stood up and wrapped their towels securely around themselves, heading into the training rooms. Everyone changed into their swimsuits and headed into the shared spa. There was some squealing as Ino and Sakura saw them. Well, to be fair, saw Sasuke enter. He was the first to enter, and the two fangirls couldn't help it. Everyone followed him, and lastly came Naruto, still wrapped fully in his towel, as everyone entered. Naruto excused himself with a slight apology and walked off the door. Once outside, he summoned the fox and gave his Ambu report. Like this to Lord Hokage, Naruto whispered before he headed back inside, taking his towel off. He headed into the shared spot where the rest of the genin were. Hinata blushed, but didn't fade. After all, she'd seen him without a shirt before. And also very recently. Everyone just stared as he lowered himself into the water. Or rather, they were staring at his, body. For a 13-year-old, he was very buff. Dang, Kunai was thinking. Naruto looked at everyone. I thought we were eating, he asked innocently. Asuma coughed and quickly got everyone's attention. Well, we have some sake for the adults, and then we have some specially ordered and cut barbecue meat. Asuma brought them out from a cooler which was in a special storage seal which he had prepared beforehand. There was a long sigh before a purple-haired Ambu moved. She was currently staring at the scene that was before her. 3 drunk and unconscious Jonin senseis, 8 sleeping genin in their swimsuits, and their fellow Ambu member drinking sake, all while in the spa. Naruto? The purple-haired Ambu addressed them. He was on his undercover protection mission anyway, so she should address him only as Naruto. Don't worry, I've slipped a little something into the sake. They shouldn't be asleep for hours. They should be asleep for hours, Naruto said as he got up and out of the spa. Stretching his arms, he gently put the sleeping Ino, who had somehow managed to drop herself over him, onto the side. He gave a signal and 3 other Ambu appeared. Set up the barrier, Naruto ordered, and the 4 Ambu jumped into a square formation, quickly setting up a barrier. Naruto bit his thumb and wiped the blood across his palm. Summoning jutsu. He placed his palm onto the solid ground and a fox appeared. Without a word, the fox quickly handed Naruto what it was holding. A small scroll. Naruto opened it and read it quickly. Naruto, your mission is to stay Uchiha Sasuke's bodyguard. However, intel has the S-rank missing nin Zabuza Momochi will be attempting to assassinate the person you're escorting. Your mission is to dispose of Zabuza and any of his accomplices without the suspicion of your team. It is imperative that Zabuza is ended. He will pose a much greater threat to the land of waves if kept alive. Also, detain Gaara for questioning upon arrival in the land of waves. Third Hokage. Naruto nodded to himself. The Hokage appeared before Naruto using the Shunshin. Excuse me. Be grateful, Naruto. Zabuza is a master of the silent killing. He is also a member of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist. Word has it that the Mist Village is under some revolution. Hyuga, the fourth Mizukage, is dangerous and unstable man. You must be careful. Personally, I hope that the way things are going with the Mist Rebels, that they overthrow him. There is something wrong with Hyuga's way of training shinobi in his village. Anyway, enough from me. I shouldn't be here anyways. Good luck. The third Hokage disappeared and the four Ambu deactivated their barrier. Good luck, Naruto, the purple-haired Ambu spoke before they too disappeared. Naruto turned and quickly covered his Ambu tattoo with a cloth before he slid back into the spa pool and raised his hands into a hand sign. Release. Naruto quickly dispelled the effects of the chakra-suppressing drug he had slipped into everyone's drink, which he had to activate using his own chakra. Once everyone had taken a sip, then he quickly pretended to be asleep. Team 7 met up at the front gate 4 hours later. Yeah, and I'm sure they had 0 questions and stuff. That was dumb. And unnecessary. He could have just done it after. Anyways. Team 7 met up at the front gate 4 hours later. All of them, apart from Naruto, had sore heads and were quietly cursing the sake that Asuma had brought. The third Hokage appeared quite unceremoniously in front of them, alongside two Ambu, Iruka and a big man who were carrying a bottle of sake. They all cringed at the sight. Kakashi! This is the man you're escorting back to the land of waves. His name is Tazuna. Tazuna grunted and looked at the team. This is what's going to protect me? A bunch of kids? He asked in disbelief. Don't worry, I'm a Jonin, Kakashi said with anything but confidence in his voice. He was still feeling the effects of the copious amounts of sake he had drunk. The Kage stepped closer. The council has decided that perhaps to shake Sasuke from his path of vengeance, that you should reveal yourself as an Ambu whenever you can. You have been asked to train Sasuke personally, the Hokage whispered into his ear. Good luck, he said out loud as to not raise too much suspicion. But be warned, Yujeo told me that there are some, shall we say, uncivil people in between you and the land of waves. The Hokage stepped back and headed towards his office, followed by Iruka and flanked by two Ambu. Let's go, Kakashi said, as he led them in their path to the land of waves. Their journey was pretty standard and quiet, except for Sakura bugging Sasuke or Kakashi. She didn't bother talking to Naruto. She may have found Naruto to be cute, but she was forever going after Sasuke. Naruto noticed Kakashi's subtle glance at the demon brothers who had disguised themselves as a puddle of water. Naruto did nothing, as did Kakashi as they continued to walk. All of a sudden, two chains shot out and wrapped themselves around him. What? Kakashi yelled before he was shredded into pieces in front of them all. Sakura screamed, frozen in shock. The demon brothers smiled uncannily at Naruto. One down, they both charged at Tazuna, throwing their chains at him. Naruto appeared frozen in fear. On the contrary, he was simply waiting to see if Sasuke was going to make a move. He had noticed that he would be assessing Sasuke's ability beforehand so that he could get a glimpse at what he would be ordered to do by the council and Hokage. Sasuke leapt into action, throwing several kunai at the chains to deflect them from hitting Naruto. Then he went on to attack the two Chunin, jumping after the outstretched arms and maneuvering around to kick them. Before anything could happen, Kakashi reappeared and swiftly dealt 2 blows to both of them and fell backwards, clutching their chest in pain. You, they said as they struggled against Kakashi, who tied them up with a smile. Not that you could see it through his mask. Tazuna audibly gulped in fear. He knew that they would be questioning him sooner or later. Kakashi turned to look at Tazuna and he broke out in a sweat. Sorry, he blurted out. The Land of Waves daimyo didn't have enough money to pay any higher than a C-rank mission. Please, this is our land's only chance. If I can finish this bridge, then Gato can no longer maintain his hold over us, and we can finally get back on our feet. Tazuna threw himself at Kakashi's feet, begging the man to continue their mission. Let's go. We can't keep them waiting, can we? Kakashi said, as they continued to walk towards the Lands of Waves. Hey, wait! Tazuna yelled as he got up and ran after them. After an eventful lake crossing, Kakashi suddenly yelled, Everyone get down! He yelled and dragged Tazuna down with him. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura immediately reacted and ducked. A large sword swung through the air, narrowly missing their heads and embedding itself on the trunk of a tree. So, no wonder the demon brothers failed. Kakashi Hatake of the Sharingan, a man with half his face wrapped in bandages, appeared on top of the sword. That's Zabuza, my target, Naruto thought. Well, I've been officially ordered to reveal myself soon and train the village's only hope. The last Uchiha, Naruto thought sarcastically. Sometimes the things the council would make him do, Naruto sighed. That would mean that he would have to stop being a part of the Genin team and go back to the Ambu. He sighed. This was getting to be too much of a headache. No doubt the council would have him made Danzo do something about him getting part of the Ambu or whatever, and including Sasuke in all the trainings and whatnot. Naruto's head hurt just thinking about it all. Manji formation. Your teamwork is to protect. That doesn't sound right. Your teamwork is to protect Tazuna? Seems like a pretty goofy ass statement to me, but we'll keep it going. Kakashi yelled and Naruto blinked once. He had missed all the other dialogue while he was thinking. Zabuza jumped onto the water of the river. He raised his right arm to form a hand seal and his left arm straightened up. Immediately, a thick mist began to cloak the area, preventing anyone from seeing anything. Sasuke and Sakura began to shake in fear. Those brats of yours are too scared, Kakashi, Zabuza mockingly said. Zabuza was about to speak again when he noticed the blonde calmly and casually standing there, twirling a kunai casually and looking straight at him through the thick mist. Even though Zabuza knew that Kakashi hadn't pinpointed him yet, it unnerved him so much that he decided to skip his intimidation talk about where to strike. In an instant he appeared in the middle of their Manji formation, only to be countered by a stab in the stomach by Kakashi. He smiled. Not that easy to kill, Kakashi. He mockingly laughed as he dispelled into a burst of water. A water clone, everyone was thinking. Suddenly Zabuza appeared behind Kakashi and swung his sword, slashing through him, only for the Kakashi to disappear in a splash of water too. It's over, Kakashi said as he held a kunai against Zabuza's neck. Is it? Kakashi gasped when Zabuza disappeared in a splash of water, and before he could react, the real Zabuza swung his sword at him. There was a resounding clash and everyone gasped. Naruto was standing there, two kunai in his hand to block the sword stroke from the missing nin. Fox? Kakashi gasped, as he recognized the stance and the style Naruto was using. You got a little rusty, dog, Naruto replied in kind before he jumped back, galvanizing Team 7 and Tazuna to move with him. He formed some hand signs and quickly, wind style. Great breakthrough. Naruto created a large gust of wind to get rid of the mist. Zabuza snarled. So, you've got some talent, kid. Zabuza grinned as he swung his sword in one hand. This makes it more fun. He grinned at the blonde who stood in front of Tazuna and Team 7. Sasuke and Sakura were staring at Naruto in shock. He's that strong? Sasuke thought, fuming that his rival was stronger than he was. He blinked and Naruto was gone, moving fast enough to catch Zabuza off guard, drawing his own sword and clashing against Zabuza's legendary blade. Naruto grinned as he easily stopped Zabuza's downward stroke. He raised one hand. Water style, water dragon jutsu, Naruto said, shocking Zabuza greatly. He watched in shock as the water dragon formed in the land behind Naruto. But how? You're a fresh genin. You shouldn't be able to manipulate chakra nature so easily, and to create a water style jutsu without being next to a source of water? How? Zabuza gritted his teeth and jumped to the side, dodging the water dragon beeline towards Tazuna. Naruto's eyes widened. He'd forgotten about them and he knew it was going to be a costly mistake. Without thinking, he dove in front of Tazuna, taking the slash that Zabuza aimed at Tazuna and kicked him away. Naruto took out a kunai and faster than anyone could see he enhanced it with wind chakra and threw it at Zabuza. However, before it hit, 3 senbon struck Zabuza in the neck and he collapsed. Thank you for that. I'm a hunter nin, and I've been trying to get him myself. Now I must go and dispose of his body. It has too many secrets, a hunter nin said as he appeared beside Zabuza and disappeared with him as quickly as he had appeared. Everyone stared at Naruto. Kakashi only looked at him. You got to explain yourself, Naruto, Kakashi said, knowing that everyone was wanting to know how Naruto was this powerful. Naruto didn't say anything, instead he collapsed onto the ground. Kakashi's eyes widened. Aw, crap, I forgot that he had taken that slash meant for Tazuna. Kakashi quickly lifted up Naruto's shirt. He heard Tazuna gasp. Tazuna hadn't expected that 13-year-old to look stronger than many of the people twice or even 3 times his age. But what shocked him was the deep cut that spanned across Naruto's chest. He could have sworn he could see bone and it frightened him. My house is nearby, let's take him there, Tazuna said urgently. Finally coming to his senses, the two genin nodded dumbly. They hadn't expected to see their own teammate jump in front of the blade and almost die just to save Tazuna. Although Kakashi had a sinking feeling, he knew that Sasuke was also in range of the blade, and Sasuke was frozen in fear and couldn't move. Fox, just what exactly is your mission if you're playing undercover in a genin team? Kakashi thought as he inconspicuously took a peek under the cloth on his left bicep to confirm that the boy in front of him was an Ambu, and he was indeed. Naruto opened his eyes to see Kakashi looking down at him. Sasuke was scowling at him from the door and Sakura was gushing over him. He gave Kakashi a cryptic look, to which Kakashi only merely nodded slowly. Alright, Sakura, Sasuke, please leave. I've got to tend to Naruto's wounds, Kakashi said and watched as they left before he closed the bedroom door. Naruto sighed before he sat up. Not a word to anyone, he said to Kakashi, who nodded. I understand that you're undercover. I'm not dumb, Kakashi said with a smile. Naruto smiled back. It was a rare sight. True, but you're always reading that perverted crap, Naruto replied before he leaned in closer to Kakashi. My mission is to keep Sasuke safe. Naruto decided that he would not reveal his true nature to Sasuke. If he did, then he would have to give up being Anbu, and he wasn't ready for that. Not by a long shot. Kakashi nodded. He understood Naruto's concerns all too well. I'm going to head out and train them now, Kakashi said loudly, just because he knew that Sasuke was probably wondering what they were saying. Naruto caught the underlying message. I'll keep him safe while you recover. Kakashi opened the bedroom door and left quickly, heading to the forest close to Tazuna's house. Naruto stared at Kakashi's back for a moment. Sorry, Kakashi, but you're not supposed to know who I am. He raised his hand and formed a seal. Kakashi froze. He felt his Ambu tattoo pulsate. I see. Well, you'll tell me all about this when you're ready. Anyways, right? Kakashi said before he fell down. Naruto sighed. He hated using that tattoo to remove memories, but it was for his own good. It wouldn't bode anyone well if word came out that Naruto was an Ambu, even though the council wanted to pressure him into revealing his identity to Sasuke. Naruto quickly rearranged Kakashi's memories to make sure he wouldn't find anything suspicious, and then woke him up. Sasuke and Sakura are waiting to train with you, Naruto said simply. Kakashi gave him a look. I'm still healing, but I'll come watch too, and hopefully learn a few things, Naruto said, and Kakashi stood up. Let's go then. That's weird. I don't know how I feel about that. Now then, concentrate and focus your chakra into your feet. Then proceed to climb the tree like this, Kakashi demonstrated as he walked up the tree. Sasuke and Sakura were staring at him in shock. Now it's all about chakra control, so perhaps just stand still first and then concentrate on your chakra. Then attempt the tree climb. Kakashi threw Sasuke and Sakura a kunai each. Use this to mark your progress. Then everyone turned to stare at Naruto, who was leaning against the tree, his head slightly down. What about Naruto? Sakura asked. Naruto's head shot up. What? Why doesn't Naruto do this too? I bet he doesn't even know what to do, Sakura said, a little angry that Naruto wasn't doing any training and that he appeared to be better than her and Sasuke. Kakashi sighed. Naruto's injured because he was doing his job protecting our client, unlike you two, Kakashi pointedly. That doesn't make sense, Kakashi said pointedly. I don't know. Therefore, he doesn't have to do this exercise yet, unless he wants to, of course. Kakashi returned to reading his book, and both of them just stared at him. I'll do it if you really want me to. Jeez, Naruto said. He slowly walked up the two of them, wincing ever so slightly from the pain. He didn't even bother to focus on gathering his chakra. Naruto was actually feeling upset at Sakura, so he decided, why the heck not? He just walked straight up the tree and sat on the bench where Kakashi was sitting, reading. He leaned against the tree trunk and promptly went to sleep, ignoring the banshee screams from Sakura and the glare from Sasuke. A little while later, Naruto awoke to see Sakura and Kakashi on the branch with him, and Sasuke was still trying to walk up the tree with limited success. Wow, and the council wants me to train a new trio with horrendous chakra control, Naruto thought as he watched Sasuke trying to walk up the tree impassively. He huffed in annoyance because of the close proximity between him and Sakura. Although Sakura fawned over Sasuke, Sakura wasn't about to completely give up on the other guy in her team. Naruto stood up and stretched before noticing that the deep wound he had received was no longer there, thanks to the Kyuubi's healing factor. Time to start on my other mission, Naruto thought. He yawned. I'm too tired. This injury is still bothering me. Kakashi-sensei, I'm going to go to sleep now, Naruto said as he slowly walked in the direction of Tazuna's house. The moment he was out of sight, he shunshined away and wore his Ambu gear. Cracking his knuckles, he set off towards Gato's base of operations. When Naruto got there, he hid in a bush and began to assess the situation. So, Gato's in his bedroom, huh? And Zabuza is being tended to by a girl. Wait a minute. It's a guy, Naruto said as he concentrated on locating the other chakra signature. Civilians had next to no chakra, but he could still sense them. He guessed Gato was in the bedroom, simply because Gato was the only one alone, who had two other chakra signatures standing still a distance away, as if on guard. He slowly drew a kunai from his pouch. He waited till he could hear the crunching of a patrolling guard around the corner and dashed to the wall. Applying chakra to his feet, he ran up the wall quickly, pausing briefly to locate any chakra signatures close to him. Although he wasn't a sensor type, he still had some skills with it due to the 9 tails sealed inside of him. And also, he was an Anbu after all. First things first, Zabuza and his accomplice. Naruto located the window and burst inside quickly. The Hunter Nin dropped their medical equipment in shock and Naruto could see Zabuza's head turn to face him. What are you doing here? He yelled. Naruto simply raised the kunai and threw it at the Hunter Nin. Haku, watch out, Zabuza growled, still unable to move due to his slow recovery from his near-death state. Haku raised the senbon and used it to deflect the kunai. Naruto smirked. Too late. Naruto formed his chain of hand seals. Snake, dragon, rabbit, tiger, firestall, dragon flame jutsu. Naruto blew his flames along the thin cord that was now attached to Haku from his earlier kunai. Haku's eyes widened frantically, but Naruto wasn't done yet. Snake, ram, monkey, boar, horse, tiger, firestall, fireball, jutsu. Naruto focused his chakra and then exploded into a massive orb of fire, aiming it at Haku while he was still trying to cut the cord. There was a loud scream before Haku was engulfed in flames. Naruto waited until the flames dissipated, leaving just the smoldering remains of Haku's clothing. Naruto frowned before turning around and blocking all the senbon that had been flying at him. Haku was still alive. He was leaning against the door frame, breathing heavily, but one could see that his right side was completely burnt. Sorry Zabuza, forgive me. I'm just a useless tool now, Haku said, as Naruto stabbed him in the stomach. Naruto turned slightly to look at Zabuza, raising his kunai. He crossed the room quickly. Before he could cut Zabuza's head off, Naruto had to jump really quickly to avoid Zabuza's swift strike. It seems you aren't actually incapacitated, just recovering energy and chakra, Naruto commented, and Zabuza scowled at him before standing up. How dare you? Zabuza swung his sword at Naruto, making him jump back even further to avoid the long blade. As he did so, Zabuza also jumped back. Ox, monkey, hare? Sure. Ox, monkey, hare, rat, boar, bird, ox, horse, bird, rat, tiger, dog, tiger, snake, ox, ram, snake, boar, ram, rat, yang, water, monkey, bird, dragon, bird. Okay, I'm not doing the rest of them. A bunch of hand side. Naruto's eyes widened as he read the hand seals. Zabuza was weaving them as fast as he possibly could, and it was thanks to Naruto's training as an Ambu and his experience that he recognized it. Water style, water dragon jutsu, Zabuza said as a large water dragon appeared from the ground. Naruto almost cursed. He forgot that Gato's house was situated over a swamp-like area. Dang it, I have to use that jutsu, even though it's incomplete, Naruto thought. Sorry, Jiraiya-sensei. Even though you and Sarutobi-sensei forbade me, I must use it. Naruto jumped back to give himself space and time. Tiger, hare, board, dog. Earth style, mud wall. Naruto quickly placed both of his hands onto the floor and immediately a wall of mud moved to block the water dragon jutsu. Ooh, mud ball. Very forbidden. He quickly concentrated on focusing his chakra into a spinning sphere. This better work, Jiraiya-sensei, he thought as he formed the Rasengan. Then Naruto began to add in his wind chakra. It began to form a Rasen Shuriken, and it was but it was small, barely bigger than his normal Rasengan, but it would have to do. He heard the sound of Zabuza as Bocho tearing off great chunks of his wall. Naruto immediately dashed out, ducking under his Zabuza's blade before thrusting it into Zabuza's body. Wind style, Rasen Shuriken, Naruto yelled before the force of the jutsu blew him back. Naruto breathed heavily before he limped to the now dead Zabuza, quickly sealing the Kubikiri Bocho. He cut Zabuza's head off and sealed it into another scroll as well. Naruto collapsed onto the ground, exhausted. Dang it, I still have to detain Gato, Naruto sighed. I guess I'll do it another time. He slowly picked himself up off the floor, sparing one last glance at the destroyed room before limping out of Gato's house. Unfortunately, Naruto didn't even make it 100 meters away from Gato's residence before he was stopped by none other than Gato himself. Naruto groaned. He wasn't getting away easily. It was almost morning by the time Naruto stumbled back into Tazuna's house. He tiptoed into his guest bedroom where Sasuke and his clone was sleeping. Dispelling his clone, he felt a lot more rejuvenated. Quickly, he wrapped his right arm and hand in bandages and wiped down the blood that was on his clothes and body. Then he laid down on the bed and let his exhaustion claim him. Naruto? Sasuke was shaking Naruto gently. The blonde boy was still sleeping. Naruto, Sasuke hissed again. He couldn't believe it. How could he? Why would he stay sleeping and leave me alone with that godforsaken banshee? He shook Naruto again, but this time he was stopped by Kakashi. Naruto is still tired and injured. The bridge is finishing today, and apparently Gato is gone from the land of waves, so everyone's pitching in to help speed up the process. It'll be done by this afternoon, Sasuke. So don't wake him up. He'll need all his strength to recover from his wounds and have enough energy to make it the journey home. Kakashi leaned on the door frame and watched Sasuke. Sasuke is definitely changed. He watched Sasuke stand up. You should continue to work on your tree climbing. I'll be at the bridge and Sakura will be there, Kakashi informed Sasuke as he left Naruto's side. And all I wanted was help from Naruto. He's strong, that much I can tell. It's just how strong is he? I need to get stronger at any cost, even if it means learning from that dobe. Sasuke brushed past Kakashi and walked to the forest. Alright then, I'm going to get this tree climbing thing done, Sasuke muttered as he left the house. Sakura walked past the open door and decided to peek inside. Naruto was sleeping, but he was sleeping without a shirt and she could feel the beginning of what seemed like it would be a prominent nosebleed. His entire body was basically on display as she felt herself drool slightly over the tone that Naruto seemed to possess. And then she noticed the burn-like wounds that seemed to be new, the bandages on his right arm and hand, and the deep gash from Zabuza, which was almost fully healed, but still showed a deep scar. What's going on? I thought he was cut almost to the bone, and that was only a few days ago, Sakura said as she continued to watch him. Someone cleared their throat. Sakura squeaked and jumped. Tazuna's daughter, was looking at her. Shouldn't you be doing something? She asked, and Sakura blushed before making up some half-baked excuse and jumped off. Tazunami scoffed before she took a look in. Immediately, her face turned red. Okay, Tazunami, keep yourself together. Oh, Lord, help me, she muttered as she quickly closed the door and made her way to the kitchen before she could get any more flustered. Team 7 set off a few hours after midday on their journey back to Konoha. Kakashi was pleased that they were given no trouble after that one Zabuza incident. Sakura was confused about her feelings for Sasuke and also surprisingly for Naruto, whose body she had seen and surprisingly found attractive. This is weird. Sasuke was his usual scowling self, but Naruto was still that fatigued and pained. He had suffered numerous wounds when Gato and all his thugs and hired ninja attacked him, and it was taking a long time to heal, probably because that deep gash Zabuza caused was still not fully healed, and he suspected Gato's thugs had dipped their weapons in poison beforehand. He trudged behind his team, feeling a little tired, when they saw the gates to Konoha after cresting the last hill. Naruto sighed in relief. Granny Tsunade, Gramps, pervy sage. Just the thought alone, coupled with the medical expertise that Tsunade would use to personally heal her godson back to full capacity by the morning, was enough to galvanize him into action. He half ran, half staggered all the way to the gates, alarming Kakashi and his team. "Wait, Naruto!" Kakashi yelled. They both stared at his erratic movements, then they all looked at each other. Since when did he suffer more injuries? Was the unspoken question that passed through all of their minds, but they thought nothing of it, and raced off after Naruto, who was lurching from side to side as he ran. "Take him to the hospital," Kakashi said to one of the gate guards as they caught up to the now unconscious blonde. "We need to go to the Hokage first," Kakashi explained as he watched Izumi lift the boy and ran off to the hospital. Kakashi then led his team to the Hokage's office. In another place, "Lord Hokage," they greeted in unison as they entered. Hiruzen smiled at them. "Everything alright, Kakashi?" Hiruzen asked. "I don't see Naruto. Where is he?" Iruka asked. Kakashi took a breath. "Well, it turns out that it was actually an A-rank mission, with the missing nin Zabuza and Momochi after us. Naruto got injured in the fight, and he's now receiving some medical care at the hospital," Kakashi answered. Iruka looked worried, but Hiruzen only nodded thoughtfully. Suddenly a shimmer appeared in front of them, and the Ambu member appeared. "Ah, you're here," Hiruzen said as the mysterious Ambu gave him a scroll. Hiruzen opened it and unsealed the sealing jutsu on it. Release. There was a puff of smoke, and Zabuza's head appeared on the table. Team 7 gasped. Many questions were running through all their minds, but they decided to stay quiet. "And?" Hiruzen asked. The Ambu merely tilted his head to the side. It was then that Team 7 released the Ambu, who was no taller than Sasuke and Sakura. Instead, he seemed to be a bit shorter than both of them. There was a couple seconds of silence before they could hear in rage screaming and yelling. The door opened and two ninja came in, dragging a rather short man through the door. "I'm telling you, this is a mistake. I'm Gato, not some tyrant," the man now identified as Gato shouted in protest. Then Gato paled when he saw the Ambu look at him. "Oh, please don't let him. Please spare me. Have mercy. Have mercy on me," he screamed in fear upon seeing the fox mask the Ambu was wearing. Team 7 could only stare in shock as Gato was pulled roughly into the room and stood cowering next to the short Ambu. "Good work, Fox," the Hokage said, glancing meaningfully at Team 7. He shook his head and the Hokage sighed. Hiruzen had already told the council that Naruto would not be giving up his Ambu status, and Danzo had agreed with it, along with Hiashi, but the rest were adamant that he must reveal himself. Kakashi looked at his former Ambu teammate in interest. He had never known what he looked like. In truth, no one did. Probably except the Hokage, but Fox never took his mask off. The Hokage motioned with his wrist and Gato was dragged off to who knows where. Fox turned to leave, but the door opened again and two village elders, Koharu Utatane and Homaru Mitokado, along with an angry-looking Danzo, walked in. Hiruzen looked at them in some annoyance. "Why isn't Fox unmasked?" Koharu demanded. "I thought we agreed that he would train Sasuke Uchiha personally," Homaru added in. Sasuke's head shot up as he looked at the two elders. The prospect of someone strong training him was certainly going to make him more powerful. Danzo looked at Fox apologetically. "He's unable to unmask because doing so will lose him his Ambu status forever," Danzo said angrily. The two elders ignored him. "We all voted and the majority wished it to happen," Homaru shouted, and Kakashi took a step forward. "If I may, I was his teammate in the Ambu. Perhaps I can take on this task," Kakashi interjected. Anyone who had ever associated with the Ambu with Fox knew he loved it more than anything. Well, almost anything. "You cannot keep doing things like this, Hiruzen," Koharu said angrily. She turned to Danzo. "Order him to unmask himself," she shouted. Danzo sighed and smiled. "Unfortunately, Fox is no longer a member of Root, therefore I have no authority over him," Danzo said, and the two others glared at the Hokage. "Tell me, Lord Hokage, do you wish for me to remove my mask?" Fox asked, his voice sounding hollow. Hiruzen gritted his teeth and grunted out what sounded like yes. They had been outvoted and couldn't do anything about it after all. "I'm sorry, Lord Hokage, but I must have an answer," Fox said again. "Fox, remove your mask. You will no longer be a part of Ambu. but you will become instead Sasuke Uchiha's personal instructor and be a part of Team 7, the Hokage said formally. Kakashi bowed his head in respect. Knowing Fox, he'd probably have a tantrum the moment he was out of the office. "I'm sorry, Naruto." Everyone in Team 7 immediately looked at the Hokage. He was looking out the window. "Yes, Lord Hokage," came the hollow voice again, as the Ambu took his mask off and undid his Genjutsu. Immediately silence set across the room. Team 7 could only stare at the back of the blonde-haired boy. The tattoo on his arm confirmed that he was an Ambu, and they were trying hard to see if they had been placed under Genjutsu. Naruto placed his mask on the table. "If that will be all, Lord Hokage, then I'll take my leave." The Hokage didn't say anything. He couldn't, not at the moment. Naruto bowed once more at the Hokage. "Very well. Good day, Lord Hokage, Lord Danzo," Naruto said, ignoring the two elders as he turned and made for the door. Team 7 stared at the passing blonde and noticed the tears were streaming from his face. His life was gone. Everything he had ever done and worked for, gone in an instant because of the council deciding that the last Uchiha would be more beneficial than the nine-tailed Jinchuriki of the village. Naruto sat in his bedroom alone. He knew Hiruzen and Danzo had no choice. If they were outvoted in the council, then they had to abide by the ruling vote. He slumped backwards onto the bed. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Laugh because they were dismissing the strongest Ambu, or cry because he was losing everything he held dear one by one. There was a quiet knock on the door. "Come in." The door opened and Hinata timidly walked in, blushing slightly from a memory of another encounter in this very room. "Father told me, so I made some tea. Hope you like it," Hinata said, quietly. Naruto sat up and gave her a tired grin. "Thanks, Hinata. You're the best, you know." Naruto graciously accepted the cup Hinata offered him and took a sip. The tea was still hot, but it soothed and calmed him down. It had an odd taste, but nevertheless, he didn't let it show on his face for fear of hurting Hinata. He felt a warm sensation flow over his body. Looking at Hinata, his heart suddenly started beating a mile a minute. "Naruto, what's wrong?" Hinata asked, seeing him staring at her. "Nothing's wrong," Naruto murmured. He felt odd, like there was something extra in the tea that made him just want to get closer. Without warning, he leaned in and pulled Hinata on top of him, making them fall back onto his bed. She shrieked in shock and surprise, but Naruto paid no mind and kissed her. Hinata grew even more red in the face and was so embarrassed that she screamed. That's not a good sign. Hinata screamed before she hit Naruto on the head rather hard, knocking him out. Then she tried to calm down. "Oh my god. What the... He kissed me. Wait, he likes me?" Hinata squealed and failed to feel the presence of a Byakugan watching her. In another bedroom, an almost unconscious Hyuga lay sprawled across his bed, a half-open Icha book on the side, and a slow trickle of blood coming from his nose. He could have fainted right then and there, and Hinata let Naruto go further. To be honest, Hiashi didn't expect for the aphrodisiac he had secretly added into the tea to be that effective on Naruto. He had bought it cheap from some dealer in a dark, shady place, so no one would suspect, but he didn't know it would be so successful. Then he started laughing like a deranged maniac. It was cut short when he choked on his own saliva for a brief moment. The amount of times I've done that. "Lord Hiashi, are you alright?" came the concerned voice of one of the Hyuga clan members who had happened to be passing by his room. "I'm fine," Hiashi said quickly. A moment later, the door opened and his brother walked in. Seeing the state Hiashi was in, Hiashi quickly closed the door. He stared at his slightly perverted brother for a moment. "What are you doing?" Hiashi asked. "Nothing," Hiashi replied. Although Hiashi knew he looked like a super perverted guy, Hiashi raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. "Where is Hinata? Neji's looking for her," Hiashi asked. "Naruto's room," Hiashi replied. Hiashi realized that Hiashi was using his Byakugan the whole time. "Wait, are you spying on them?" Hiashi asked. Then Hiashi fainted as a new stream of blood flowed out of his nose. Freaking pervert. Naruto awoke to find himself laying on the floor with a bump on his head. He sighed and tried to think back. "Oh, that's completely out of character for me." He soon noticed Hinata was still in the room, blushing deeply and staring at him. "Oh, sorry, I don't know what happened. I think someone slipped something in the tea," Naruto explained as he sat up, and he knew just exactly who it was. "Hiashi," Naruto mentally roared out in anger but decided against it. Sighing, he looked at Hinata. Hinata, if you don't mind, I want to change," Naruto said, and she nodded. "Oh, okay," Hinata said in a quiet voice as she left his room. Naruto had been officially ordered by the Hokage to become Sasuke's teacher, so he had no choice but to do so. He pulled off his top and put on instead a black shirt and a Jonin vest, but didn't change his pants. Then he headed down the stairs of the Hyuga compound. "Naruto," he heard someone say, and he turned. In the living room, the Hokage, Danzo, and the two elders were seated next to Hiashi. Danzo nudged the two elders and they jumped slightly. "Well, we've actually decided that instead Kakashi will be training Sasuke. We'd like you to just keep him safe and watch over him." All of that. All of that. Oh my god, all of that, and he's not even teaching Sasuke. Why did he have to take his mask off to teach Sasuke? That's stupid. He could have taught Sasuke as an Ambu. Homaru said as he clenched his throat. Naruto looked at them for a moment. "Okay," Naruto replied. "Because of your contributions to the village as an Ambu member, the two elders have decided, along with the council, to throw a celebration for you tomorrow night. The whole village will be in attendance and it will be honoring all you have done to protect this village from the shadows," Danzo said, ignoring the shocked looks and the glares from the two elders. Naruto grinned. The last phrase was a code for Naruto. Basically, Danzo was the one who actually decided on throwing the celebration, and nothing was going to stop him. "Thank you, Lord Hokage, Lord Danzo, and the council," Naruto answered with a bow. Hiashi was smiling on the other side. "Of course, they also agreed to give you a small break from work, 1 week to be exact," Hiashi added. Danzo and the Hokage were concealing grins behind their hands as the two elders looked like they were going to explode. "Of course, so that Naruto could be arranged to go on dates. Hang out with my lovely Hinata, and they can they can play and have fun." Hiyashi's weird in this, man. He noticed everyone was looking at him. The Hokage cleared his throat. "Naruto, of course, as our strongest shinobi, although you have been officially discharged from Ambu, you will be officially recognized as an elite Jonin, and you will be working closely with the Ambu. Oh, and Hiashi, you have blood dripping down your nose." Hiashi immediately produced a tissue from his sleeve and wiped the blood away. Everyone just stared at him, unsure of whether the tissue had implications that Hiashi either had regular nosebleeds due to weak blood vessels around his nose, or that Hiashi was a closeted pervert. They all thought it was the former. After all, no one would have thought that the strict and stoic Hyuga would be caught dead as a closet pervert. It was just impossible. However, they couldn't be further from the truth. Naruto left the Hyuga compound thoroughly confused. He had assumed the elders were there to enforce some more well-thought decisions onto him, but instead they relieved him of his duty. "Oh my god, it's Naruto," a bunch of girls squealed as they saw him walk down the street. What the heck? Naruto thought when he saw posters all over the streets. He went up to one and almost fell back in shock. It was him. It was a poster of him. It detailed him as the hero of Konoha and the guy who defeated the various threats to the village, etc, etc. Naruto noted that it didn't say ended. He would have bet anything that if it had said killed instead of defeated, then they would have looked at him rather in fear rather than admiration. Naruto sighed. He knew it would be a long day. All of a sudden, everyone was stopping their work and moving toward the Hokage building. He decided to follow the citizens, but everything was beginning to get blurry. He couldn't see properly, but he could hear someone shouting at him from what seemed like the sky. "Naruto!" Naruto jolted upwards. He was in a hospital bed. It took him a few seconds to actually get his bearings. "What happened? Where am I?" Naruto asked. He saw his team there and also Hinata. Kakashi stood up from the chair where he was reading his orange book. You fainted the moment we got to Konoha. It must have been poison that was circulating your body. It's been a day, and we have yet to report to the Hokage regarding our mission success, Kakashi said. Naruto stared at him in confusion. But Naruto struggled to speak. Tsunade said that you've been in a dreamlike state for the past day. Naruto inwardly sighed in relief. So I'm still Ambu, and I didn't do anything with Hinata, he was thinking. That's right, you fool. Naruto heard the voice of the fox in his head and he winced at the volume. Okay, I'm glad, because that was actually like some slow brain activity right there. If that was like the case and that was the like where the story was going. Naruto shook his head slightly. Wait, why was I thinking about Hinata? And why was I dreaming about her? He thought. There was a loud chuckle in his mind. I'll let you figure that one out on your own, the fox said again, before Naruto focused back on the people next to him. I'm fine, he said, as he got out of the hospital bed, noticing that someone had covered his Ambu tattoo strategically with a band-aid. Granny Tsunade, he thought with a smile. Let's go report to the Hokage then, Kakashi said as he stood up, followed by Sakura and Sasuke. Naruto briefly wondered why Sasuke was there. He noticed Sakura was glaring at Hinata for some reason. Hinata, Naruto said, making Sakura turn her attention to him. Let's go, he reiterated, pulling Hinata protectively along with him. Her lavender scent filled the air around him and it calmed him down. Suffice to say, it for some reason sped up his heart rate. But Naruto found that he didn't care. Sakura was so annoying to him, and he couldn't bear to see Hinata hurt. Yo, kid, Kurama's voice sounded in Naruto's mind. What's up? Naruto replied as he continued to walk Hinata out of the hospital. A masked ninja came in middle of the night when you were unconscious. It happened right after Kakashi carried you into the hospital. Go on. Everything that happened to you the moment you fainted at the gates of Konoha wasn't real. I'm guessing that masked ninja put you into a Genjutsu world, but I managed to bring you out of it. Also, you might want to tell the old geezer. It's the same ninja that controlled me all those years ago. Okay, this is also very stupid. Obito came and put Naruto in a Genjutsu? Really? Kurama's voice faded away into the background when Naruto heard Hinata wince. He had been subconsciously tightening his grip on Hinata as he'd listened to the news. A Genjutsu world, huh? Naruto thought. Naruto, you're hurting me, he heard Hinata say, and he let go of her immediately. I'm so sorry, he gave her a goofy grin. I was thinking about some stuff. Hinata gave him a smile. I understand, she said quietly. Naruto thought for a moment. Before he decided something, he turned to Hinata. Say, Hinata, you wanna go and eat with me? He asked, stuttering slightly. Why am I stuttering? It's just lunch. And I thought you were intelligent, came Kurama's sarcastic reply, which he ignored. Naruto noticed that Hinata had turned completely red. Hinata? He asked Hinata. Yes, she squeaked, completely red. Let's go report to the Hokage first, Kakashi said as he started walking to the Hokage's office. He was still reading that orange book. It was the newest book in the series. That redhead falling in love with a blonde guy. Kakashi thought as he turned the page. He instantly felt a tiny trickle of blood as he read the now heavily action-packed version. It was a limited edition version, which was gifted to him by none other than the Toad Sage himself. He led his Team 7 into the Hokage's office and was a little surprised that Hinata was with him. Probably because Naruto still hadn't let go of Hinata. Ah, Team 7, Hiruzen said, obviously not happy with Kakashi's late mission report. Late by 1 minute after the usual 3-hour wait, Kakashi gave him a smile. Sorry, but we were waiting on Naruto who was in the hospital, Kakashi said. Hiruzen allowed himself a small smile, as did everyone in the room. Finally, it's not a stupid excuse, everyone was thinking. Kakashi stepped forward and handed Hiruzen a report of the events that occurred during the mission. Then they turned to leave. Iruka was too busy staring at Hinata. Wait, why is Hinata with Team 7? He asked no one in particular. Hiruzen sighed. Iruka, didn't you see her and Naruto were rather close? The third Hokage sighed as he stood up. Iruka thought for a moment. Yes, But why, Lord Third? He asked. The third Hokage buried his face in his hands. Never mind, Iruka, never mind. Naruto and the others left the Hokage's office. Kakashi sighed and opened his book. Well, take a break before meeting our meeting spot tomorrow. You guys all deserve it after that mission, Kakashi said, and walked off. Naruto grinned. He grabbed Hinata's hand and they began to walk away too. I promise I'll tell you about it while we eat, Hinata, Naruto said as he headed off to one of the more expensive restaurants in the village, holding the hand of the Hyuga heiress who was redder than a tomato. Sakura stared after the two, slightly glaring but also fangirling at the same time. She latched herself onto Sasuke's arm. Oh my gosh, they're so cute together, she screamed into his ear, making Sasuke jump in fright. Ew, no, get away from me, he yelled before he ran off towards the Uchiha compound. Big brother, Sasuke yelled out as Sakura started to chase after him. What? That's weird, okay. Naruto, why here? Hinata asked shyly. They were standing in front of a restaurant called the Golden Clam. It was the most expensive place in the village to eat. Hinata herself had been to the restaurant only once with her father. Something wrong, Hinata? Naruto asked, still oblivious to the affectionate suffix he had added onto Hinata's name. She blushed again. What's wrong, Hinata? He asked again. Hinata shook her head. It's so expensive, she whispered. Naruto grinned. Don't worry about it, Naruto said as he pulled her along with him into the restaurant. No wait, Hinata squeaked out, but they had already entered. Naruto walked by the civilian at the reception. She stared at him with a critical eye but said nothing. Isn't that the fox boy? She thought, but she didn't show any emotions outward. She was paid to do her job, and so she did it. She was not paid to complain about demons. She'd let the higher-ups worry about it. How may I help you? She asked politely when she saw the Hyuga heiress beside them. Table for two, please, Naruto asked. In a corner would be nice. Hinata blushed again when he mentioned the corner. The lady wrote a few things down on a paper before she looked back up. She rang the bell on her desk. Immediately a waiter appeared. He gave her a short bow at them. Table for two, in a corner preferably, the lady said, and handed him the paper. The waiter gave another short bow. Follow me, please. He opened the double doors to the side and held them open for Naruto and Hinata. This way, please, he said as he moved in front of them both, leading them towards a vacant table that was near a corner. Right here, he set the piece of paper down and pulled out the chair for them to sit. May I take your order, or do you want to browse our menu? Naruto shook his head. We'll look at the menu first, he answered. The waiter nodded. Very well. He handed them both a black book with golden lettering. I'll be back in a few minutes to take your orders if you're ready. The waiter informed them and moved off. Hinata and Naruto both looked at the menu. Do you? They both said, and they both blushed a bit. Naruto scratched his head. He was completely new to this. Oh god, what do I do? I've never been in this situation before, especially in front of a pretty... Naruto was thinking desperately. This is golden comedy, boy, came the laughter of the fox. How about you go first then, Naruto? Hinata said as she clutched her menu tightly. Naruto gave her a tight smile. He was so nervous he could have sworn the fox had butterfly neighbors in his stomach. I like what he did there, that was cool. They left the restaurant 2 hours afterwards, feeling really full and slightly elated. They wouldn't admit it to each other, but they both thought this was as close to a date as possible, and they enjoyed it greatly. However, Naruto's enjoyment was slightly less than Hinata, considering he had to pay a hefty fee for the meal. They both sat down by some trees nearby and sighed. Had a great time, Hinata, Naruto said. Hinata blushed a bit. She still wasn't over it. Me too, Naruto. Thanks for telling me about your mission, she whispered back. They both stared at each other for a moment. On an impulse, Naruto leaned in close. Hinata turned red. Oh my god, is he going to... Hinata was thinking. Naruto's face was right in front of hers. She swore that it was only a couple centimeters away. Suddenly, Naruto's face turned red and he wrenched his face away from hers. Sorry, Hinata, Naruto said, his face completely red. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable, Naruto cried out. Hinata was still red in the face. He was, she thought. Then she promptly faded. "Hinata?" Naruto yelled out. Naruto couldn't think straight as he headed towards training ground 7. Yesterday's lunch was replaying in his mind the whole time, so by the time he actually arrived at the training ground, his face was red. He'd been thinking about the near incident they had. Sasuke and Sakura immediately noticed his red face and questioned him about it. "What's up with you?" Sasuke asked, the Uchiha smirk ever so visible on his face. "Yeah, idiot. What is up with you?" Sakura echoed. Naruto snapped out of his thoughts with a noticeable blush. "Nothing," he said, but he knew the two didn't buy it. They stared at him for a while before Sasuke finally gave the infamous Uchiha and turned away. Sakura didn't divert her attention though, only taking a discreet look at his features once more before comparing them to Sasuke. She mentally squealed and jumped. Sasuke and Naruto were still attractive and perfect in their own ways, and that was when her own perverted thoughts came into play. "What if I combined them together?" she drooled, and almost lost it, but kept her composure. It wouldn't do to lose her cool in front of the two most attractive genin in the village. There was a sudden poof of smoke, and Kakashi appeared in front of the genin. He wasn't late for once. "Good morning," Kakashi said. They all turned to face him. "It's the afternoon. You told us to meet you here in the afternoon." Sakura retorted, although she didn't feel like screeching. Kakashi smiled. Did he mean it's the afternoon? You told us to meet you here at noon? And then messed up, whatever. "I'm sorry, I was busy, I forgot," Kakashi replied. He suddenly noticed the twitching eyes of Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura stare at his back. "I've got some news for you," Kakashi said. "I've decided to nominate you 3 for the Chunin exams. Granted, they aren't coming up yet for some time, but after that Zabuza mission, I'd say you guys are more than ready. I'm gonna focus heavily on training now, and we'll be doing 1 to 2 D-rank missions a day, just so you guys can have some money to take home," he said, with a grin as he took in the shocked faces of his genin. As Kakashi started to talk about training, Naruto zoned out. He could skip the Chunin exams if he wanted to. After all, he was already an Ambu, under the old man, but they didn't even know anyway. "Naruto," Kakashi shout echoed across the training field, and Naruto jumped. "Oh, what?" Naruto said as he turned his attention back onto Kakashi. Kakashi sighed. It was gonna be a long day. Kakashi wiped his forehead. He had spent the entire afternoon working on their teamwork, making sure that they had all not neglected or forgotten the importance. After all, regardless of the Zabuza mission, Sasuke was still super arrogant, Sakura was still a banshee, and Naruto was the only one who had an inherent grasp of teamwork. Although he was fairly sure that Naruto had some secret that he was hiding, he shrugged. He would be told when Naruto felt like he could reveal the secret, but there was always time for some reading. He grabbed the orange book from his pouch and flipped it open. As he read, he couldn't help but admire the skill of the writer. He had captured the redhead's stunning beauty and the large blonde's love-making scene almost flawlessly, as if he witnessed it in real life. Suddenly, Kakashi froze and trembled slightly. His mind was racing. Lord Jiraiya is the author, and the names of the two characters and their appearances are very similar to his sensei and his wife. Kakashi fought a sudden onslaught of blood from his nose as he realized the implication. Jiraiya had spied on his sensei's most intimate moments. This is disgusting. He giggled pervertedly out loud before he saw that his genin were staring at him. Yeah, no, this is weird. This author needs to get checked, man. I'm not sure. Snapping the book shut, he cleared his throat before pretending nothing had happened, and thank God for his rival to show up in a timely manner to distract his genin from asking him about it. "My eternal rival," a loud voice shouted across the training ground as a man with large bushy eyebrows, a bowl cut, and wearing the ugliest green one-size-fits-all bodysuit landed in front of Kakashi and the genin. Sasuke felt like vomiting, Naruto felt nauseous, and Sakura simply fainted at the fashion atrocity. "I heard that you're gonna nominate your genin for the Chunin exams," Guy shouted a little less loudly, although Naruto and Sasuke could have sworn it didn't deviate much from his original voice. Kakashi simply stared at him. "Huh? Oh, that little sis. My canning will pass just fine, Kakashi said, with a smirk as Guy simply stared at his team. Guy was crying on the inside as he assessed the team members Kakashi had. Sasuke Uchiha, the last Uchiha and Rookie of the Year. Naruto Uzumaki, according to Kakashi, managed to face off against Zabuza evenly. And Sakura Haruno, the top Kunoichi of the year. His fists were shaking uncomfortably. "You've got a strong team, rival," Guy shouted. "But my team has twice the amount of youth yours possess," Kakashi sighed. "But my team is younger, therefore they are more, as you put it, full of youth than your team," Kakashi rebuked. Guy froze on the spot. "Then we will train every day for 20 hours. We will reclaim our youth and bask in the evening sunshine of victory," Guy shouted as he struck a pose. "Okay," Kakashi said as he shoved Guy away from his team. He didn't even want He didn't want any Guy enthusiasts on his squad. "Okay, after Sakura wakes up, we're going to do some training to prepare you for the Chunin exams," Kakashi said while he opened his orange book. "I'll be teaching you, Sasuke, on your Sharingan. Naruto, I've asked the Hokage about your training and he said he'd be able to provide a teacher for you. As for Sakura, I'll have her undergo some more taijutsu training, for she's certainly not the strongest hand-to-hand fighter here." Kakashi smiled before he poofed away. Sasuke frowned. "Didn't he say he'd be training us?" he asked, but he quickly realized that Naruto wasn't there. He was stuck with the Banshee until she woke up. "No." Hokage, for Ambu were kneeling down in front of the Hokage and Danzo. "The Chunin exams are upcoming very soon. I'll need you four to head out to Suna and give their Kazekage this invitation. Also, I'll have you stay on post at Suna until they send a reply." One of the Ambu wearing a cap mask stepped forward and took the scroll from the Hokage. Then the rest of the Ambu stood up and shunshined away. Hiruzen looked over to Danzo. "There's a matter of interest that needs our attention," the Hokage said. Danzo turned to face him. He raised his hand to form a seal. Immediately, a barrier was created around the Hokage's office, and the four corner seals on the walls began to glow. "Naruto," the Hokage said, as a blonde boy drooped down from the ceiling. Kurama told me this when I was in a hospital after the Zabuza mission. "A masked ninja stuck into my room and placed me in a Genjutsu world," Naruto said. Danzo and Hiruzen both stiffened. Kurama said it was the same one who was responsible for making him attack Konoha when I was born. Danzo nodded thoughtfully. "And this world? What of it?" Danzo asked. Naruto cleared his throat. "It felt exactly like this world, except for a few key differences in being the personalities of some of the people. I only noticed one irregularity, but that was probably because I was only in it for a few hours before Kurama broke me out of the Genjutsu world." "Could it be that this was a prototype?" Danzo asked. "The only reason I see for creating a Genjutsu world would be to trap them indefinitely without them realizing, because normal Genjutsu have boundaries. So if there are irregularities, then there must be something wrong." Hiruzen nodded thoughtfully as he digested what Danzo told him. "Danzo, for now let it rest, but make sure your root members are keeping a closer eye on people who aren't a part of the village. We can't afford incidents such as this one to continue to happen." Danzo nodded. "Naruto, after the Chunin exams, you'll be able to fully assume your former role as an Ambu. There will be no repercussions should you choose to tell those close to you about your position. Just remember, make sure Sasuke doesn't fall into his dark ambitions and desire for vengeance," Hiruzen said, and Naruto nodded. "Got it. One final thing. You can come out now," Hiruzen said as he looked at the roof. Danzo and Naruto both looked up, slightly shocked that they hadn't noticed a black crow in the corner. Naruto's eyes widened. The fact that he didn't notice was a big surprise. Only someone equally as skilled or more skilled would be able to hide from him. His eyes narrowed as the crow flew down from the ceiling and it transformed into Itachi. With his black hair, crossed out leaf headband, and the Akatsuki cloak, his two red Sharingans were perhaps the most noticeable features. "Sharingan," Naruto thought. "He must have cast a Genjutsu on me to make me either forget I saw him or make himself seem like he wasn't there." "Itachi, what's the matter?" Hiruzen asked. Danzo took a seat on the couch, and Naruto simply stared at the Uchiha prodigy. "Just here to check on Sasuke. Although the Akatsuki are not making a move on the tailed beast as of yet, the leader, a man who possesses the Rinnegan, wants to gather more funds first," Itachi retorted. Naruto was shocked. He couldn't say a thing. Naruto, you should understand that this is an S-rank secret of the village. No one apart from me, Danza, and now you know of Itachi. Please keep it that way. Naruto nodded, his throat dry. Danza saw Naruto's look. We'll tell you when the time is right, Danza said, and Naruto nodded again. Itachi turned to face him. Please look after my little brother, Itachi said, as he gave Naruto his infamous forehead poke. I regret a lot of things, including putting my brother on his dark path. Please, if you do sway him off of vengeance, give him this. Itachi poked his forehead again. Then he burst into a flock of crows, circling all of them once before they flew out the window as Danzo deactivated the barrier seals. It's a gesture of affection, they both told the puzzled Naruto. Naruto left the Hokage's office, feeling very overwhelmed by the events that had occurred. Itachi wasn't a criminal, he didn't massacre his clan for unjust reasons. Naruto needed time to process this information. After all, this meant he'd have a whole new perspective on things. Itachi killed everyone but his brother due to a planned coup led by his own father against the Hokage. He didn't know what to think, and to top it all off, the Chunin exams were upcoming soon enough anyway. Naruto, he heard the shy voice of Hinata and he immediately brightened. Hinata always made him smile. He didn't know why. You're such an idiot. I sometimes wonder why you're even in the Ambu. He heard Kurama's comment in his mind. He frowned slightly. What was Kurama seeing that he wasn't? Hinata, he called out. He ran over to her and grabbed her hand. She blushed from the contact and looked down, trying hard not to faint. I want to show you something. Let's go, he said happily. He ran with her down the street towards the Hokage monument. They were giggling and laughing like little children, and Naruto couldn't have wanted it any other way. Being with Hinata really took a lot of stress off of his shoulders. They giggled as they ran down the streets, ignoring the odd looks of passing civilians and their fellow genin. Even Hinata, caught up in the moment, didn't take notice of any glares aimed at her from the numerous fangirls of Naruto. They reached the base of the huge mountain. Naruto looked at her. Do you trust me? He asked gently. She felt her heart beating faster. Hinata blushed and nodded. Naruto gave her a smile. It was completely different to any smile that Naruto had ever shown on his face before. Naruto let go of Hinata's hand momentarily before he scooped her up, carrying her bridal style as he gathered his chakra and jumped. Normally, no normal genin or even Chunin would have had the precise chakra control nor the necessary chakra to be able to jump from the base to the top of the Hokage's head, but Naruto was no ordinary ninja. He landed gently, distributed the large amount of chakra he used to push off from the ground. They had arrived on top of the Fourth Hokage's head. Hinata, Naruto breathed out. She turned to look at the view. It's beautiful, she said back, her stuttering and nervousness completely blown away by the view. It's my favorite place in the village, Naruto said, still looking at her. She turned to face him, noticing his gaze locked firmly on her. He took her right hand and placed it on his chest. Can you feel it, Hinata? He asked, still looking at her. She blushed when she realized that Naruto had some time ago unzipped his jacket and she was touching his chest. She could feel his rapid heartbeat. Hinata, I think... I don't want to do this. I could quit. Like, this doesn't have to be what I spend my day with, but here I am. I think I'm in love with you, he said as he continued to look at her. Hinata flinched when he said it. She couldn't think straight. Naruto's in love? But with who? Oh my god, you dumb... She desperately tried to make sense of the situation, but she failed. Trying to blink back tears, she looked up at him. With who? She asked quietly, afraid that her chance with him was gone. It's Ino, isn't it? I wish. Ino is such a better ship. Hinata's good and all. I just don't like the shy things. She rationalized. After all, she'd seen him sleep on her shoulder and be rather close on his first day at the academy. Okay, quick little rant. I don't mind romance. like in these stories at all. Sometimes they're actually very enjoyable. It's just like very hard to do romance well in a story that's not focused on romance, and like 90% of the time it's not done well, and it's just corny, cringy, and it's not fun to read. But when it is done well, it's a great experience. It adds a whole nother level to the story. It makes the story so much better. It's just that most people don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. But yeah, this isn't done well. This is not fun. She could feel the tears running down her cheeks as she waited for his answer. Instead, she felt his fingers brushing her hair and wiping her tears away. "With you, Hinata," she heard him whisper, and then she felt his lips press against hers. Hinata's mind was in turmoil. She didn't know what to say. Finally, she surrendered to her feeling and she kissed him back. Eventually, they broke the kiss, both panting for air and smiling at each other. "I love you too, Naruto," Hinata said, as they held each other's hands and sat down on the Fourth Hokage's head and stared at the sunset. Naruto felt truly at peace. With Hinata's head laying on his shoulder, he couldn't help but feel calm. "Do you want me to tell you a story?" Naruto asked, giving Hinata another smile. She nodded. "Here he goes. I'm a long time ago, in the village hidden in the leaves." Flashback. "It's the nine-tailed fox," a ninja screamed as the Kibi thrashed his tails around and roared. The third Hokage was dressed in his shinobi outfit alongside his Ambu. As they watched it draw closer to the village, he looked back at the other Jonin and Chunin. "Okay, we have to fight him and force him away from the village and wait for the fourth Hokage," the third Hokage shouted as they engaged the Nine Tails. There was a big struggle, but it was clear that they weren't winning. In a secluded safe house, a blonde man appeared beside a seal marker clutching a baby. He laid the baby down on a soft futon and covered it in blankets. The baby started crying and the blonde man couldn't help but grin. "Don't cry, Naruto. He's gonna save me." I'm cutting that out. Hold up. I didn't like that. And with that, he disappeared in a yellow flash. Moments later, he was back in another flash of yellow. This time carrying a beautiful woman with long red hair. He laid her gently down by the baby boy. "Shh, don't cry, Naruto. Mom's here now," she whispered tiredly. The blonde man stood up and slipped on his cloak, which had the red character for the fourth Hokage down the back. This guy's British. You can tell by the spelling of mom. I'm pretty sure that's a British thing. Maybe it's just a non-American thing. The blonde man stood up and slipped on his cloak, which had the red characters for fourth Hokage down the back. "Minato," the woman called out. He turned to look at her. "Don't worry, Kushina. I'll be fine." "No, you won't." He disappeared in a flash of yellow as Kushina hugged Naruto tightly. Minato reappeared in the Hokage monument and looked down at his leaf ninja led by the third Hokage, who fought valiantly to slow down the Nine Tails. He saw the Kyuubi's fire of a tailed beast bomb at him, so he held out one of his three-pronged kunai and transported the attack away from the village. As Minato prepared to jump in, a masked man warped in and tried to suck away Minato. "Hey, yo, my man is married, calm down." Reacting quickly, he teleported to one of his outside markers. Minato stood up just in time to see the masked man wrapped in a warp in. "Who are you?" Minato asked. "And why are you doing this?" "You could say I'm doing this on a whim," the mysterious man replied. Minato narrowed his eyes. "Are you Uchiha Madara?" he asked. "I might be," came the reply before he dashed at Minato. Minato tried to slash at him, but his attack went straight through him. His eyes widened before he teleported himself back to a marker before the masked man took advantage of him. "Hey, yo, no, Obito needs to chill." The masked man attached a long chain to both of his wrists, that's restraints too, and charged at Minato again with it. Hinata threw a kunai at his head and formed his Rasengan. As the masked man faced through Hinata again, Hinata teleported to his kunai and slammed the Rasengan down onto the masked man as he materialized to attempt to grab him, slamming him into the ground. He marked him with his Hiraishin Jutsu formula before the man jumped away. Then Hinata teleported to him and placed a contract seal on him, forcing him to release his control of the QB. The masked man glared at him before he warped away. Hinata teleported the QB and himself to Kushina, and Naruto Erecting a barrier, Hinata used the Reaper Death Seal to seal the yin half of Kurama into himself. Realizing they were trying to do the Nine-Tailed, the Nine-Tailed killed the boy. Tried to kill the boy. Oh my god, that would have ended the show quickly. But Hinata and Kushina both jumped in front to block him. Hinata smiled through the pain, seeing the third Hokage and several ninja arrive to witness the scene through the barrier. Place some of our chakra into the seal. So say what you want to say to Naruto. Kushina took a deep breath. Don't be picky. Eat lots and grow strong. Make sure you bathe every day and stay warm. Also, don't stay up late. You need lots of sleep and make friends. You don't need a lot, just a few. Ones you can really trust. I wasn't very good at it, but keep up with your studies and practice your ninjutsu hard. Remember that everyone has strengths and weaknesses, so don't get depressed if you can't do something well. Respect your teachers and upperclassmen at the academy. Oh, and this is important. It's about the 3 prohibitions for shinobi. Be extra careful about lending and borrowing money. Put your mission wages into your savings account. No alcohol until you're 20. Too much can ruin your health, so drink in moderation. Another prohibition is women. I'm a woman, so I don't know too much about this one, but all you need to remember is that this world is made up of men and women, so it's only natural to take an interest in women. Just don't get hooked on bad women. Find someone just like me. Speaking of the free prohibition, well, he just uses the wrong words at time, and I have to figure that out on the spot. Speaking of the 3 prohibitions, be wary of Jiraiya Sensei. You know, Naruto, from now on you're going to have to face lots of pain and hardship. Be true to yourself, have a dream, and have the confidence to make that dream come true. There's so much I want to pass on to you. I wish I could stay with you longer. I love you, Minato. I'm sorry, I used up your time. Hinata smiled. Oh, it's okay. Naruto, my message to you is, I guess it's the same as your nagging mothers. Nah. Minato's going to be sleeping in the couch in heaven, man. You can't just be saying that. 8 signed seal. Hinata finished the final seal and Kurama's remaining yang half was sealed into Naruto. Kushina and Minato's bodies hit the ground as the barrier disappeared and the third Hokage rushed in. I want Naruto to be seen as a hero, not a demon, Hinata said softly to Hiruzen as he died. Flashback end. That's my story, Naruto finished on the verge of tears again. There was a I thought that was an S-rank secret, but okay. There was a moment of silence before Hinata hugged him, allowing Naruto to finally let out the tears he'd been holding all his life. I'm sorry about your parents, but thank you for telling me this, and I'll always consider you my hero. She comforted him as he let his emotions out on her shoulders. I think I can see the resemblance between the fourth and yourself, Hinata said, trying to cheer him up. He cracked a smile. You do? Naruto asked. It's the hair and eyes. Those are the same features that I remember seeing on the Fourth Hokage's picture. Let's go home, Naruto said as he stood up, grabbing Hinata's hand tightly. He leapt off the Hokage's head and landed softly on the ground with Hinata holding onto him tightly. Then together they ran all the way back to the Hyuga compound, holding hands and giggling. They ran into Naruto's room where he closed the door and they kissed again. Alright. Naruto blinked to open his eyes. He yawned and stretched his arms before looking down at the sleeping beauty laying on his chest in his bed. She was wearing nothing but his shirt and some shorts, while he was just skipping a lot of this. He yawned again. It was the best sleep he'd ever had in his life. Suddenly, his door burst open. Naruto, have you seen... Hiashi started, but then choked off when he saw Hinata sleeping on top of Naruto. His hands flew to his nose. There she is. I thought she was missing, he said. He quickly stepped out of the room. That was when he noticed a chocolate cloak over a huddled form in the corner of Naruto's room. He narrowed his eyes before dashing in and grabbing the cloaked intruder and shunshined onto the roof of the Hyuga compound. Give me one good reason why I should not gentle fist you right now. Hey yo. Hey yo. Hiyashi's wilding. Lord Jiraiya, Hiashi said, as he got into a stance. I wasn't peeping on them, I swear, Jiraiya screamed out, as Hiashi took a step forward. Please, Jiraiya begged. Hiashi activated his Byakugan. Jiraiya jumped back as Hiyashi's palm passed through the air where he was before. He quickly pulled out a black book with gold bindings on it. Take this, he said, and Hiashi froze while looking at the book which was thrust in front of him. Hiashi took one look at the title, Ichi's Special Edition. His eyes widened. Is this? Hiashi tried to ask Jiraiya, giving him a beaming smile. It's my special limited copy collector's edition. There are only 50 copies of this book in existence, and it's my best work by far. Jiraiya bragged as he watched the usually stoic Hyuga open and close his mouth repeatedly, without saying anything. Jiraiya began to tiptoe away as he noticed that the Hyuga was currently engrossed in the book. I'll leave you to it then. Naruto stood up. He shook Hinata awake. Come on. I should probably tell your father about us before he gets mad, Naruto said, blushing. Hinata giggled. They both headed downstairs to the dining room, hand in hand, where Hiashi was sitting reading. He closed the black book and gestured for them to sit down. Now, I'm already aware of your situation. It was your first time. Clearly, you forgot to exercise caution. And now you may or may not be expecting a child. Now my grandchild must be well behaved in my house, have good manners, and must not show disrespect towards any elders, Hiashi said. He noticed the bright red faces on them. Dang it, they must have not had that talk, Hiashi sighed. Alright, I'll explain it from the start. Basically, when two people love each other very much, they start to... No, please stop, father, Hinata said, not meeting Hiyashi's eyes. Naruto coughed lightly. Hiashi turned to face her. We just slept in the same bed. That's all, he mumbled awkwardly, scratching his head. It was a nervous habit. Hiashi gritted his teeth. I may or may not have exposed my nature just then, Hiashi thought. It was his turn to cough. Oh, okay. Slight misunderstanding. But regardless, my grandchildren must be well behaved. He abruptly stood up and left the room, probably to go to his bedroom before Naruto and Hinata could question why he thought they were doing that in Naruto's bed. Naruto and Hinata sat still for the next 10 minutes, not even looking at one another. Dobe, Naruto heard Sasuke shout. He sighed. What? Naruto asked, a little irritated. Fight me, Sasuke said. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Why? I want to see how powerful you are, Sasuke replied with a small smirk. It was clear to Naruto that Sasuke was having trouble training with Kakashi and had decided that he'd beat someone into the ground so that he could regain his own confidence and keep his ego intact, thinking that he was the strongest genin in the Leaf Village. Naruto sighed. He wasn't really wanting to fight Sasuke, but someone had to kick away his Uchiha arrogance. Fine, your funeral, Naruto replied, as he walked to the training ground with Sasuke right beside him. They both settled into their stances. Sasuke smirked. It was going to be too easy. Sasuke attacked first, launching rapid punches and kicks towards Naruto, hoping that the rapid movements would be able to overcome him. It shocked them to see Naruto grinning and easily blocking all of them. Naruto counterattacked on Sasuke's last punch, swiping his arm to the left so that his momentum carried him forward and landed a single punch into Sasuke's stomach. Sasuke dropped faster than Hinata could faint. How? Sasuke whispered, trying to catch his breath. Hard work, and the bonds I have with everyone I've met had made me this strong. Even you have, was all Naruto said. Although that last part wasn't exactly true, as he left them cradling his stomach and still gasping for air. Unknown to Naruto, there was a silent observer. The man stepped from the shadows of the trees and licked his lips. The long purple tongue slithered around him before it disappeared back into his mouth. Look at that loser, Sasuke heard someone speak. As he finally stood up, he turned around, angry, and faced the speaker. It was actually a woman. She had long black hair and was wearing a headband from the Hidden Grass Village. And who are you to judge? I'm Sasuke Uchiha, he said, with a contemptuous toss of his head. She smirked at him. An Uchiha, huh? She said. I'm a Genin too, and I've heard about the Uchiha, but I just watched you get beat by a blonde-haired brat. You must be pretty weak, she goaded. Sasuke felt his anger rise. You wanna pick a fight? Sasuke asked cockily. She grinned. Wouldn't have it any other way, she replied, allowing her longer than normal tongue to lick her lips. Sasuke grimaced. It was way beyond creepy. They went in for a standard taijutsu first, and Sasuke turned on his Sharingan. He could see and predict the movements almost with ease. He smirked. This was too easy. The woman stepped back for a bit, then she disappeared. Sasuke's eyes widened when he realized she was right in front of him. Ducking down, he dodged a punch aimed at his head and retaliated with a kick. She's fast. So fast. But I can see all her movements. Sasuke began to smile again. I win. He threw 5 shuriken at the woman, who sidestepped them all. Sasuke smirked and then tugged his fingers back. The woman's eyes widened in surprise. Wire-controlled shuriken, she gasped out as they swung themselves around the tree trunk and slammed her into it, wrapping her up nice and tight. Wait, I'm here for the Chunin exams, she tried to screech out, trying to seek mercy from him. Sasuke smirked. Snake, dragon, rabbit, tiger, fire style, dragon flame jutsu. Sasuke blew a long stream of fire which raced down the wires and struck the woman, burning her whole body intensely for a few seconds. Oh, so he just commits casual murder because he lost one fight. Fair. No, I can see that totally happening. He could hear her mangled scream and tentatively looked around, wanting to see if anyone was in range to hear or see what was going on in the training grounds. He needed this. It was also that he could become stronger and end Itachi. He didn't care what it took. As long as he got there, he'd do anything. Sasuke watched as the fire sizzled out, leaving the woman slumped over. Huh, he said as he turned and began to walk away, only to hear the snapping of wires. He froze mid-step, turning back around. He watched as the woman straightened, however half of her skin was burnt off, and he could see another face underneath, a pure white one. Sasuke Uchiha, your eyes have so much potential, even more than Itachi, the person said. Although Sasuke could tell it was a man, he felt an intense wave of chakra flood over him, laced with killing intent, and he fell to his knees in terror. He'd never felt anything this strong. It was even scarier than Zabuza's. You're a fool, Sasuke Uchiha, he said, as he deliberately walked slowly towards the paralyzed Uchiha. Opening his mouth, he drew his kusanagi and wielded it nonchalantly in his right hand. Look at you, so weak, so powerless, he taunted as he stepped closer. You possess a Sharingan, yet you can't hope to match Itachi, was considered an Uchiha prodigy, making Ambu at age 11. Orochimaru grinned sadistically as he saw Sasuke cower in fear when he finally reached him. How can someone like you who is weak possibly hope to gain even a fraction of the power required to beat Itachi? Orochimaru asked. I have a friend who told me hard work and by making bonds, Sasuke tried to say to distract the long black-haired Sannin and missing Nin from Konoha. Orochimaru laughed. Hard work can only get you so far. No amount of hard work can allow you to learn all the jutsu in this world, which will then be wasted upon your death, with no one else being able to comprehend the incredible number of jutsu you have mastered and created, Orochimaru said. But I have created the immortality jutsu, and I shall be the one who unlocks all the jutsu in this world. Orochimaru laughed again. So let me tell you, hard work can never beat a genius, Orochimaru gloated. But Sasuke began. He was smacked down onto the ground by Orochimaru. Yes, he beat you through hard work, but you are no prodigy, and you are weak, he spat. So tell me, do you want a shortcut to power? Shortcut? Do you want more power than you could possibly imagine, enough to kill Itachi and avenge your clan? Yes, I thought as much, Uchiha. Orochimaru licked his lips again. He formed a hand seal and suddenly his neck lengthened rapidly and his head flew straight at Sasuke's neck. Orochimaru bit down on the back of Sasuke's neck, eliciting a scream from him. After Orochimaru returned back to his body normally, he smiled. What did you do? Sasuke asked, grimacing as he began to feel waves of pain emanating from the spot where Orochimaru bit him. I've shared a bit of my power with you, through my seal, the cursed seal of heaven. This is a bit of a taste of power I can give you to defeat Itachi. If you want more, then I suggest you pass the Chunin exams. I'll be waiting for you. Orochimaru smiled again as he sank into the ground. Until next time, Sasuke. Sasuke stood up and stumbled away from the training grounds, clutching his neck. Every few minutes he could stop and grit his teeth as a wave of pain washed over him. Dang it, he thought. He was conflicted. The way Naruto had told him, Naruto had left it open, implying he'd be happy to train with Sasuke, but at the same time he was being offered a shortcut to power. He couldn't decide. He made it back to his house and dropped onto his bed, writhing in pain and screaming as it became too much for him to bear, and he promptly passed out. Outside the Konoha hospital, a tall man with glasses stood, conversing with a black-haired Jonin instructor wearing a sound headband. So how did it go, Lord Orochimaru? The man asked. I had to mark him sooner than expected. I watched him lose in a spar to a prodigy, who is also the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. The blonde brat is his teammate, so I won't be able to mark Sasuke in the Forest of Death without getting away cleanly. It's better now that Sasuke is definitely going to lay low. You too, Kabuto, Orochimaru said as he vanished. Yes, Lord Orochimaru. Kabuto bowed down to the place where Orochimaru was standing and walked away. All that remained of their meeting was a small brown snake slithering into the hospital. Rotation. Hinata tried to get the timing right, but her spin was once again off center and she fell barely 2 seconds into the Hyuga clan's main defensive jutsu. Hiashi sighed as he watched the kunai he'd thrown at her, albeit aimed so that they would pass by her harmlessly but still be deflected by the rotation, sailed through the air, with no deflection at all. He half-heartedly threw a couple more shuriken when he saw Hinata get into her stance. It was his disappointed look and the half-hearted attempt that affected Hinata the most. She knew her father was trying to teach her, but it just wasn't coming. She surged more chakra to her eyes and hands, determined to get it right. Immediately her stance was off and she knew it was completely wrong, but she saw her chakra extend from her hands and she moved quickly to block off all of the shuriken that Hiashi had thrown at her, creating essentially a wall of chakra which blocked all of the shuriken. Hiashi stood in shock. He'd never seen anything like that before and his mouth was wide open. Hinata, he asked, can you do that again? He quickly threw several kunai before she could respond, to test her reflexes. She did, again. Protective 8 trigram, 64 palms. I don't think I've ever seen that jutsu before, Hiashi said. Not even in the jutsu scrolls of the Hyuga clan. Hinata blushed. Hiashi was quite obviously pleased with the defensive jutsu, although it wasn't the rotation. Hiashi could see it was just as useful, if not more so. Hiashi sighed as he stared at his patiently waiting daughter. He closed his eyes and then he opened them. He had his Byakugan turned on. Quickly reaching into his robes, he flung multiple shuriken and kunai at her as fast as she could possibly react to. He didn't stop his onslaught, continuing to throw weapon after weapon at her, only holding back the speed. He exhausted all his weapons almost instantly and jumped forward, lining up a palm strike to her chest. Hinata readied her stance, her Byakugan seeing all the attacks, and she performed her defensive jutsu again. Her flexibility allowing her to deflect all the weapons while dodging Hiyashi's palm strike. Hiashi was extremely impressed. Good job, Hinata, he said. Hinata smiled. Hiashi didn't normally praise people. I'd like you to keep practicing that on your own, seeing as you've created the jutsu. Only you can improve it. However, I will be teaching you the main jutsu of the Hyuga clan starting with the 8 trigram 64 palms, because I don't think the rotation is something suitable for you, Hiashi explained as he saw Hinata get into a stance. It was going to be a grueling training session. Kakashi. Naruto's voice was heard by Kakashi moments before he saw him. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Normally students don't talk to their sensei in such a fashion, Kakashi said. Naruto chuckled. I'm not a normal student, dog. He addressed Kakashi by his Ambu code name, which surprised him. How do you know that? Kakashi asked. Naruto sighed. He took off his shirt and also took off his bandages, covering the Ambu tattoo on his left bicep. Wait, how? He asked. Naruto raised his hand and Kakashi's tattoo pulsated. Flashback. Naruto, Fox, just what exactly is your mission if you're playing undercover in a Genin team? Kakashi thought as he inconspicuously took a peek under the cloth in his left bicep to confirm that the boy was indeed from the Ambu. Naruto opened his eyes to see Kakashi looking down at him. Sasuke was scowling at him from the door and Sakura was gushing over him. He gave Kakashi a cryptic look to which Kakashi only merely nodded slowly. Alright, Sakura, Sasuke, please leave. I've got to tend to Naruto's wounds, Kakashi said and watched as they left before he closed the bedroom door. Naruto sighed before he sat up. I understand that you're undercover, Kakashi said with a smile. Naruto smiled back. It was a rare sight. True, Naruto replied before he leaned in closer to Kakashi. My mission is to keep Sasuke safe, and Naruto decided that he would not reveal his true nature to Sasuke. If he did, then he would have to give up being an Anbu, and he wasn't ready for that, not by a long shot. Kakashi nodded. He understood Naruto's concerns all too well. I'm going to head out and train them now, Kakashi said loudly, just because he knew that Sasuke was probably wondering what they were saying. Naruto caught the underlying message. I'll keep himself while you recover. Kakashi opened the bedroom door and left quickly, heading to the forest close to Tazuna's house. Naruto stared at Kakashi for a moment. Sorry, Kakashi, but you're not supposed to know who I am. He raised his hand and formed a seal. Kakashi froze. He felt his Ambu tattoo pulsate. I see. Well, you'll tell me all about this when you're ready anyway, right? Kakashi said before he fell down. Flashback ends. Kakashi's eyes widened as all of his locked memories flowed through him. I see. So, Naruto, you must have a reason for revealing this to me now. What is it? Kakashi asked. Let me help with Sasuke's training. I'll be doing it from behind the scene, like observing your training sessions and helping improve them, but I'll also spar with them every day. How do you mess up that? And help him gain more taijutsu skills. These people need to get Grammarly, man. It saves me so much time because I don't have to go back and edit. Taijutsu skills, Naruto said. Kakashi nodded. That seems fair. By the way, Sasuke seemed a little upset yesterday, Naruto said. Oh yeah, he wasn't getting the training. I was teaching him about chakra natures and his affinities lightning and fire, but he couldn't get the chakra shape manipulation. He couldn't even get a spark out of his chakra. Kakashi relayed yesterday's training events to him. Naruto nodded. Oh, I see. Sasuke woke up to a blaze of pain. He grit his teeth before the pain slowly subsided. Grabbing a shirt, he slid it onto his body and walked to the bathroom. He turned his body around until he could see the spot where the crazy man had bit him. He gasped. He could see 3 tomoes there, and he knew instantly that all the pain originated from it. He glared his chakra in anger. What? He glared his chakra in anger but cried out in pain as the mark pulsed and another wave of pain shot through him. He screamed. He needed help. Whatever Orochimaru did to him wasn't beneficial at all. Power didn't come through shortcuts, at least Sasuke was certain, but that seed of doubt that had been planted by Orochimaru kept wiggling its way inside Sasuke's mind, making him constantly question Naruto's answer. Were bonds with people really that powerful, or could he obtain the power Orochimaru promised him from a shortcut? First, he needed a way to stop the pain. Sasuke found Kakashi. He was sitting in a restaurant reading his orange book while eating alone. Kakashi-sensei, he said. Kakashi looked up and snapped shut his orange book. Yo, Sasuke, he said nonchalantly. I need help, Sasuke said, as he began to tell Kakashi everything that had happened to him yesterday. By the end of it all, Kakashi was pale. Orochimaru bit you and placed the curse mark on you? Kakashi asked to clarify. Sasuke showed it to him in response. Darn it, Kakashi muttered, Training will be much harder. That seal reacts to your chakra and seals it away from you, making you have to rely more and more on its power. As a result, that's why you feel pain. And when your chakra is exhausted, it will take over and grant you power and Orochimaru's own chakra, but at a heavy cost to your body. It will leave you paralyzed and unable to move for weeks at a time, depending on how long you've used that cursed seal's power. Kakashi said, although he mostly lied. If he could persuade Sasuke to never use that cursed seal, his next task would be easier and Sasuke wouldn't be thinking about ending Itachi in the long run. Hopefully. However, I can place a seal on that curse mark that prevents it from interfering with your actions and chakra use, Kakashi said, leaving the statement open. Sasuke considered it briefly. Do it. Kakashi led Sasuke underground into a special room. This is a sealing containment room. It's specially useful for performing seals like this one because it minimizes the chance that an exterior factor will disrupt the seal markings I have to write down and potentially changing the seal. Kakashi explained as he made Sasuke take off his shirt. Kakashi stabbed 4 kunai into the ground in a square shape while using a 5th one to draw a circle where the 4th kunai touched. He drew another concentric circle around the circle concentric circle and then quickly cut Sasuke's finger. Using Sasuke's blood, he began to write rapidly. Sasuke watched in morbid fascination as the many lines of seal markings were written out by Kakashi using his blood. Alright, this is going to be painful. Get ready, Kakashi said. And then he does a bunch of hand signs. Ninja art, curse sealing jutsu. Kakashi finished weaving the hand seals and Sasuke immediately cried out in pain as the seal marking began to move their way away from the outmost circle all the way to form a tiny circle within encapsulated Orochimaru's curse mark. Sasuke collapsed onto the ground as waves of pain pulsed through his body before the pain slowly subsided away. I'm fine, Sasuke said after a while. Okay, good. Now let's go and train, Kakashi said, surreptitiously giving Naruto a thumbs up behind his back. He knew Naruto would be there on hand in case something happened. Sasuke groaned. His entire body was hurting. He'd wake up daily for the last month doing ninjutsu training and taijutsu training with Kakashi. Then afterward, he'd go spar with Adobe. He'd convinced himself at the beginning that it was only training, but whenever he thought about it, Naruto was pretty good at taijutsu, and he suspected that his ninjutsu was just as good. His friend Naruto kept calling him his friend during their sessions, and Sasuke began to believe it. They had become friends through training, which Sasuke knew that had Itachi not defected from the leaf and killed the rest of the clan, the old Itachi would have found it funny to no end. Are you excited? Naruto asked him. Sasuke gave him a long look. Their friendship had progressed quickly and to the stage where Naruto could tell that what Sasuke's answer was by a look. Of course, only for the simple question, but nevertheless, Sasuke nodded. They were standing in front of Kakashi with their Chunin exam slips and were waiting to be led into the room for the first portion. Sakura was much more talkative and accepting of Naruto, which made the Uchiha feel strange. Everyone had changed. Sakura had begun training hard so that she could be on their level, although Sasuke suspected it was due to Naruto talking to her in a blunt fashion. But being the Uchiha he was prone to jealousy, and he felt a pang of jealousy strike his heart as he watched Naruto and Sakura talking closely to each other. Sakura barely talked to him anymore, and it looked as though Sakura had moved on. But to Naruto? Stop thinking about it. You don't even like Sakura anyway, right? He tried to convince himself. Plus, Naruto has a girlfriend. It calmed him down, surprisingly enough. The doors opened and Sasuke jolted from his daydreaming and entered the written exam room with his 2 team members. He immediately saw Naruto move to Hinata's side and wrap a reassuring and protective arm around her, which seemed to make Hinata look much more comfortable and confident in herself. Then he saw Sakura move next to Naruto and latch herself onto Naruto's arm. The 2 girls began to talk with each other. Clearly, Hinata and Sakura were good friends now. When did all of this happen? Sasuke thought, seething in anger and glaring slightly at Naruto, not that the latter noticed it. Why does Sakura have to cling to him? Sasuke? He heard someone ask, and he blinked his eyes. What are you thinking over there? Naruto asked, when he noticed that Sasuke seemed to be spacing out. Nothing, Sasuke said. a bit of venom entering his voice. Naruto didn't know why he sensed Sasuke was in a bad mood. His friend didn't normally get into a bad mood without something really irritating him, like someone mentioning Itachi's name for instance, or apparently Sakura clinging to Naruto's arm and talking to Hinata. "So, I heard you're friends with Sasuke now," Ino stated, tilting her head to the side as she stood rather close to Sasuke. Sasuke's mood grew better, at least a girl was standing by him, even though Sasuke knew that Ino wasn't one of his fangirls. Rather, she was more into Naruto ever since he arrived at the academy a day before the Genin exams. Naruto gave her a grin. "Yup, we trained together," Naruto said, and Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Wasn't exactly true, but in a sense it was still. A door at the back of the classroom suddenly opened and everyone stopped talking and looked over. A tall man wearing a black cloth around his head and a large black trench coat walked into the room. He had 2 scars across his face and he was a rather imposing person. "Alright, settle down. It's time for the Chunin exams to begin. I'm your proctor for the first exam and my name is Ibiki Morino." Suddenly a bunch of leaf ninja appeared in the room and began to sort out everyone into their seats, away from their team members. Now the rules are simple. No cheating. You get caught cheating and you get a mark against your name. 3 marks and you're disqualified. No questions. No talking. Start now. Ibiki practically shouted in their faces. Everyone froze and just stared at him. Someone turned their heads slightly. "You, 1 mark," he shouted. Everyone quickly got their heads down and started reading the questions. Naruto yawned. He breezed through all the questions in the space of 3 minutes. Being Ambu had its advantages for sure. He put his head down to sleep, but not before giving Ibiki a wink. Ibiki frowned. No one would dare give him a wink. No one except it clicked for him. Naruto was an Ambu. He was the Ambu that was the 3rd Hokage's assigned Ambu to the interrogation department. After all, Naruto could track, recover, or capture people better than any of the other Ambu could. He could only guess that Naruto was here on a mission. He sighed. Sakura was having a breeze. Being book smart had its advantages. She found the first question easy and she just finished it. Now on to the next question. It was about the required angle to achieve a parabolic shuriken flight path of y equals negative 2x plus 14. It was pretty easy too. Sasuke was crying and tearing his eyes out. He couldn't do anything. It's like they designed it so that you had to cheat. Wait, Sharingan. Wait, what? Sasuke shook his head to clear his throat, to clear his thoughts of Orochimaru's weird laugh and phrase. It was really beginning to creep him out how often Orochimaru would creep into his thoughts and corrupt them with brief tastes of immense power. He discreetly activated his Sharingan and began to copy the person in front of him. "Alright, time's up. It's time for the final question, which I will give you all verbally. This is a do or die question. Those who stay but do not answer correctly will not be allowed to participate in any more Chunin exams. Those who leave are free to come back next time, and those who stay and do answer correctly will continue forward. Stand up and leave now while you can, but remember, if you leave, your team follows," Ibiki explained. Kiba opened his mouth to talk. Ibiki immediately threw a kunai at him, causing him to yelp and duck down. "I make the rules. When I say no one talks, then no one talks," he shouted. "Now anyone who wants to leave, leave now." He watched with a gleam in his eyes as one by one people began to drop out. "I don't care if I stay Genin forever. I'll still be a better ninja than you," Naruto shouted with a smirk to match Ibiki's tone. Ibiki gritted his teeth. "The dang brat is doing this on purpose." Ibiki chuckled and shook his head. "Only you, Naruto," he mumbled, but apparently Naruto's word had given everyone courage and determination. "Well then, I guess. That's all, then you all pass," he said. The mouths of everyone except Naruto were wide open in shock. "Wait, what? What about the 10th question?" someone asked in disbelief. Ibiki chuckled. "The 10th question was the one you had to ask yourself. Do you dare continue and risk losing it all, or back out of the Chunin exams and try again later? You see, information is very valuable in the ninja world. It can win a war on its own," Ibiki said as he removed his bandana. His head was festooned with horrific burns, scars, screw holes, which showed the extensive torture he'd endured without giving away any information. The entire room was shocked in silence. Naruto grimaced, rubbing his back where he had also had a torture mark left on himself. Due to the Kyuubi's healing powers, it was mostly gone, but only a slight scar remained, which served as a reminder of the time when Naruto had been too careless and got himself caught. Anyway, not so fast. The exams aren't over yet, a loud female voice interrupted Ibiki, and a baton smashed through the window and unraveled itself, revealing the words. Here comes the second test proctor, Anko Mitarashi, said a woman, struck a pose in front of the banner which covered up Ibiki's body. Naruto gave a small grin. He didn't expect any less from the purple-haired Takubetsu Jonin. Then she saw Naruto. Is that Ambu guy? Dang it. On second thoughts, I'd say you guys earned a break. I'll meet your squad leaders and tell me where to go tomorrow. And tell them where to go tomorrow. Go celebrate. It might be the last chance you ever get, she said in a creepy voice. She watched as the Genin slowly left the room before Ibiki tapped her shoulder. You're early, yet again, Ibiki said. Was it Naruto? Anko asked. Ibiki nodded. He gave me hell, he replied, showing her the perfect test paper he had gotten from Naruto. Naruto sighed contentedly as he left the room. He failed to notice Sasuke's eyes following him with a narrowed look when he approached Hinata. His friend was certainly not himself today though, which was what Naruto thought. Hey Naruto, let's go somewhere, just the two of us, Naruto whispered into her ears as she listened to her two teammates talking. She blushed and nodded in response. Naruto grabbed her hand and they walked away, smiling at one another. Of course, the jealous trio was watching their every move. This is stupid. This whole Sasuke character thing, I kind of like what the writer did with him not being like all that emo and stuff, and him like with the whole importance of good people around you and stuff. But the whole him being jealous and stuff is just stupid, and I don't really want to read it, so we're skipping it. Chapter 15. Sasuke fumed. He spent the entire day spying on Naruto. Okay, nope, we're skipping ahead. Alright. Team 8 looked around. Hinata closed her eyes and activated her Byakugan. Kiba took a sniff and Shino sent on his insects to the unsuspecting team. It looked like they were simply discussing things and setting up recon out in the open. But they had been doing that the instant that set foot in the forest. Shino nodded slightly. It was a tiny nod, imperceptible to all but the people most familiar with him. Kiba didn't say anything, but Shikamaru barked once. There's a group up there, 3 up in the trees behind us, Hinata whispered, her Byakugan active, making sure that the cloaked ninja in the trees remained in her field of view. She knew Shino and Kiba had found them too, but Hinata was the most accurate at finding the exact location. All 3 tensed as the cloaked ninja gathered chakra to jump, and then a giant net hoisted them all up in the air. The mysterious ninja screamed and Team 8 turned around. They had constructed such a trap several hours ago, and finally a team had stumbled into it. Giant parasitic slugs rained down from the trees and into the net, and screams of horror were heard. Even the usually unmoving and emotionless Shino winced. After all the screaming stopped, Shino had his bugs bring down the scroll that the 3 ninja had. Luckily for them, it was the one they needed. It's a heaven scroll, Kiba said happily. Matches with our earth scroll too, Shino allowed a brief smile to show on his face. Hinata was happy and relieved. She didn't want to stay in the forest any longer. Let's go, Kiba said as she leapt onto a tree branch, taking the lead. Hinata was in the middle of the squad and Shino was at the back. Hinata provided the vision so she'd be protected. Plus, Kiba and Shino knew that Naruto would go on a rampage if oh my god, this is corny. I can't believe we've done it so fast, Kiba said excitedly. Kiba, we should focus on getting to the tower, Hinata reminded him, still nervous of the other Genin squad. She's right, Shino said. Kiba rolled his eyes. Do you see how big this area was? Each gate is a kilometer apart, and there are around 50 gates stationed equally around the area. There's no way another team would be super close to us at this stage, Kiba laughed. That was when a large gust of wind knocked all 3 from their tree hopping onto the ground. Kiba, Shino, and Hinata landed safely on the ground, which was oddly covered in sand. What's this? It's a forest, not a beach. Kiba frowned. Suddenly, a wave of killing intent washed over the three, freezing them in place. Hinata began to panic. We've come into contact with another team, and it looks like they're fighting. She thought. She could see that her team members were also thinking the same thing. Clearly the wind was a jutsu, but it wasn't aimed at them, as clearly it wasn't strong enough to do anything other than interrupt their tree hopping. But they weren't that far from the battle either. They watched, horrified, as a screaming ninja was hoisted up into the air by sand, which seemed to be controlled by a red-haired sand ninja with a large gourd on his back. His arm was outstretched, and beside him was a blonde sand kunoichi and a male who was standing with a wrapped-up dummy. Sand coffin. They heard the redhead say as he squeezed his fist. There was a scream, and the sand crushed the ninja, sending blood splattering everywhere. Hinata screamed. She couldn't help it. It caught the attention of the three sand ninja, and almost immediately the sand around their feet coiled themselves around their legs, trapping them in place. Whoa, Kiba shouted as the redhead turned to face them. Please, we'll give you our scrolls, Kiba tried to reason with them, but he raised his arm and chakra-infused sand floated out of his gourd, making their way towards Kiba and his two team members. Shino struggled, his movements growing more and more erratic. It mirrored his panic and he began to sweat. I can't get loose, Shino shouted, in fear. Hinata was trying to expel chakra from her chakra points, but her control of the Hyuga gentle fist technique wasn't good enough for her to do it anywhere else apart from her hands. Sand coffin, the redhead shouted, and the sand raced towards them. Not a chance in. A loud reply cut through the area, and Naruto burst into the scene. With one quick swipe, he deflected the sand, making it fall harmlessly onto the ground. Sakura and Sasuke soon followed, jumping in behind teammate, and they began to help them out of the sand. Gaara scowled and began to walk towards Naruto. He released his killing intent again, but this time Naruto walked towards him. Not so fast. What is this, a corny cop movie? Naruto, that's not what he said, but Naruto said as he replied with a brief flash of Kurama's chakra. Let me take him, he heard Kurama growled. No, Kurama, not here, Naruto replied. Fine, but I'll scare him off, Kurama said. Naruto continued to glare at Gaara with his eyes changing color to red, his teeth growing longer and his whisker marks growing more defined. Gaara stepped forward and then suddenly stopped. He felt a wave of a powerful chakra, more powerful than his own, and saw a demonic figure made of what seemed to be pure chakra, colored red and slightly bubbly, floating above Naruto's head, resembling that of the nine-tailed fox, and Gaara gulped. That's also stupid. If anything, that should make Gaara more excited to fight him, since the One-Tails hates the Nine-Tails so much. Kankura, Tamari, let's go, Gaara says, as he took a step back before jumping away. His two siblings followed. They were confused. Gaara had just been scared off by someone else. They knew that he'd have to be much stronger than Gaara to scare off that of the One-Tails. Naruto turned back to face his team and teammate with his temporary features all gone. He went up and hugged Hinata. I'm glad you're safe, Naruto said. Hinata let out a sob. We saw him and someone, blah 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 blah, she whispered, and Naruto stroked her back. He knew that Hinata hated meaningless violence, let alone ending someone. It just wasn't a part of her. It'll be fine, blah 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 blah, he said soothingly. He then looked up at Kiba and Shino. You guys okay? He asked. Kiba scratched his head and Shino nodded. They both shared a sheepish grin. Yeah, we're a little traumatized. Okay, alright. No one asked. You're ninja for... But other than that, they didn't do anything to us. Thanks, Kiba said. Let's go to the tower now, Naruto said, and Sakura, Sasuke, Kiba, and Shino all nodded simultaneously that he had not let go of Hinata's hand. Instead, he drew her even closer to him as if to blah 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 blah. I'll take the lead, Sakura and Kiba in the middle, Shino and Sasuke at the back. Hinata will be up front with me, Naruto said. Again, they all took note of the slightly angry and concerned tone Naruto had when he spoke. He leaned over and blah 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 blah. Okay. The rest is just fan service. They arrived safely at the tower. Although Hinata had fallen asleep long ago, being carried by Naruto as they jump from tree to tree. That's why she passed out. That's kind of an L. The proctor, Anko, was not surprised. Neither was the third Hokage, who informed them that they were the first group to arrive at the tower. The Hokage simply met Naruto's eye with a hidden message, and Naruto shook his head. Sasuke hadn't used the curse mark at all, which was boding well for them. Alright then, you guys are not permitted to leave the tower until 5 days are up, but you can have the first pick of rooms to sleep in. After all, we cannot have you running around while the second exams is still going on. Anko explained to the genin and they nodded. The 6 of them were then shown to the staircase where they were instructed to climb up. The rooms in the tower extended from the second floor all the way to the top. As they walked to the stairs, Anko pointed out the large double doors that were closed. And there is an arena where you'll be probably doing your preliminaries before the final round of the Chunin exams, she said, as they all paused and had a look. The double doors were massive, more than twice as high as the proctor, and they looked foreboding. Come on, let's choose rooms. I'm tired, Sokka said, and they all headed up the stairs to the second floor. Naruto grinned. He hadn't been training in the Forest of Death in some time, usually because it was such a big area. Teams of Ambu would train for a couple of days at a time. Coming to the tower to sleep at night, Naruto knew which floor was the best. Let's go to the third, Naruto said. Everyone looked at him quizzically. Just want to see what kind of rooms there are, he replied, and everyone nodded. Clutching the sleeping Hinata, Naruto led the way, although he could sense some eyes on him. He didn't know that Sakura and Sasuke were staring at him and that Kiba and Shino were talking about Hinata. Not that Naruto really cared anyway. Reaching the third floor, Naruto headed down the hall to his favorite room. It was basically his room in the tower. Whenever he trained here, he'd always sleep there, and it had sort of become like a second home to him. The other Ambu respected it and left it alone. He opened the door with one hand and went inside. The room was exactly the same as he'd left it. It was large and spacious with a large bed in the middle, a table by the wall under the window, and a bedside table with lamps on it. He sensed the chakra of the other four spreading out as they looked for rooms to sleep in, and Naruto laid the sleeping Hinata gently down on the bed. Naruto closed the bedroom door, headed to the small bathroom connected to the room. Each room had a small bathroom, and his was no different. He raised his hand, undid the Genjutsu he'd quickly cast on it. His hand was completely red. Gaara's sand was completely saturated in Biju chakra, and it damaged him when he used his hand to deflect the sand. He could feel it. The sand in question had been enhanced by the demonic chakra so much that even the deflected attack had gone straight through his skin. He floated his arm with Kurama's chakra and watched it in morbid fascination as blood and sand were expelled all over his hand. Quickly washing it away, he kept an eye on his hand until the wounds had completely healed. Taking a quick peek in the bedroom, he noted that Hinata was still fast asleep. He pushed the bathroom door but didn't close it fully. He left a tiny crack in it and stripped off his clothes, turning on the shower. He stepped in and closed the door to the glass shower box. He'd take a quick shower before he headed back out, probably to go talk to the Hokage about the whole Orochimaru situation. Shino had been rather vocal ever since the encounter with Gaara in the forest. Sakura and Sasuke were slightly confused, but Kiba knew that Shino was still recovering from the shock of seeing someone actually being ended right in front of his eyes. They continued to look around at all the other rooms, noting that none of them looked like the one Naruto had picked. Naruto's room choice was personalized if they were to find a word to describe it. So, are we sleeping the same rooms or separate? Sakura finally broached the question. I think we should sleep in 2 rooms next to Naruto and Hinata, Shino said. He was still shuddering every now and then. So does that mean Sakura sleeping alone? Kiba asked. No, Hinata will be with me, she replied. But she's with Naruto. Oh, right. No way I'm not sleeping alone, especially not with that creepy sand guy arriving at the tower soon. Everyone shuddered at the thought. Okay, well, since me and Shino are in the same team, we'll take the room to the left, and you and Sasuke can take the room to the right, Kiba said slyly, and he dragged Shino away with him. That left just the awkward silence between Sasuke and Sakura as they stared at the room next to Naruto's room. But it's only got one bed, they both thought, and then blushed. How did it go? A dark-haired man asked as he stood beside several others. Men with orange hair looked at him. Itachi, things did not go as planned. Madara's dream world plan was a fail. The nine-tailed Jinchuriki broke out of it within one day. The Rinnegan bearer looked behind them. I think it's time, he said, and from the shadows stepped a man in an orange spiral mask wearing the cloak of the Akatsuki. This is the Akatsuki Circle. Myself, Konoha, Zetsu, and Madara, the orange-haired man said. Now it's almost time to begin the first phase of our plan. Move out now to your assigned locations and await further orders. Madara said, Nagata, Konan, and I will be coordinating movements from here, and Kakazu, you can continue to acquire money for now. The ninja, all wearing slash headbands and Akatsuki cloaks, turned and headed out of the dimly lit cave. Come, we have work to do, Madara ordered. Okay, this is fan service, fan service, fan service, fan service. Okay. Oh, that's not fan service at all. Okay. No, this is interesting. Hinata awoke in a soft bed. She panicked when she realized that she wasn't in her own bed. The last thing she knew was falling asleep in Naruto's arms. But this wasn't Naruto's room anyway. She could hear the sounds of water from the bathroom. Someone was using the shower, but first Hinata needed to know where she was. She got off the bed quietly and walked across to the bathroom. Hello? She called out as she poked her head in through the slightly open door, forcing it to open even more. She blushed immediately. Blah 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 blah. Oh Lord, what am I doing? Hinata immediately withdrew her head from the doorway, but not before she noticed the tattoo on Naruto's left bicep. That's weird. I've never seen that there before, she thought. All other thoughts she had gone from her mind as she puzzled through this one. There was a knock on the door, and Hinata jumped slightly. Coming, she called out. She walked to the door and opened it. Sasuke, Sakura, Kiba, and Shino entered. They all took a brief look around the room before sitting down on the chairs. Where's Naruto? Kiba asked. Hinata pointed to the bathroom. Taking a shower. They all looked and noticed the still open bathroom door. Immediately, they all shared a look. Hinata, did you peek on him? Sakura asked with a sly smile. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Hinata's red face told them all. Sasuke smirked. Who knew that Hinata would be that kind of person? However, they all knew she probably woke up and looked in the bathroom because she heard a voice. A noise. Sasuke felt a wave of pain from his curse mark and gritted his teeth. It grew progressively stronger, and Sasuke couldn't help but close his eyes and clench his teeth. Sasuke? He faintly heard Kiba and Shino say, but Sasuke didn't respond. The pain was becoming unbearable. He let out a scream of pain as he clutched out his neck, feeling like it was on fire and he was being branded or crucified. His curse mark had fed off all of his negative emotions that had eroded away Kakashi's sealing jutsu, rendering it useless. Orochimaru's chakra began to spread around Sasuke's body as he lay screaming on the floor. The curse mark began to spread and they all took a step back. Sasuke, Sakura screamed out. What's wrong? Someone help. Naruto heard the screaming and panicked shouts coming from Sakura. Ah crap, something's up with Sasuke. He sounds like he's in pain. Naruto quickly dashed out of the shower, forgetting to at least wrap a towel around himself. That wasn't important. More importantly, was Sasuke's curse mark was acting up again. Running out of the room, he was horrified to see the curse mark spreading out around Sasuke's body. Move, he shouted. He raced past the shocked Kiba and Shino and quickly rolled Sasuke out onto his front, so that Sasuke's back and curse mark were easily visible to him. Everyone stared at the tattoo that Naruto was unable to hide. Hinata, Shino, and Kiba's eyes widened. Being clanners, they recognized the tattoo anywhere. Anbu, they all thought. Sakura looked at it but dismissed it. Naruto reached over into Hinata's weapon pouch and grabbed the kunai. Quickly stabbing himself, he let the kunai go and used his blood to rapidly draw seal markings all over Sasuke's back and the curse mark, before extending them onto his own bare chest. Sakura, Kiba, and Shino looked on in mild interest before realizing that he was still naked. They all grew a little red but realized the situation couldn't be helped. Tiger, snake, rat, ox, dog, ram, sealing jutsu, 9 phantom transfer technique, Naruto said as he wove the seals. They watched as the curse mark resided from Sasuke's body and watched as it drained onto Naruto's body, with him screaming in pain, and Sasuke's curse mark reverted back to its original state, intact with Kakashi's seal firmly fixed. The moment all of the sealing markings Naruto drew on Sasuke's back had moved onto Naruto's body, there was a small explosion, and the resulting blast sent Naruto flying through the air and crashing into the wall. Unconscious on his chest was a new seal above the seal that was on his stomach. It was very much a slightly larger and identical version of what was on Sasuke's neck, except that it had extra sealing marks around it. Then red chakra began to leak out from Naruto, taking the form of a demonic nine-tailed fox. Although rather small, there was a shocked silence as they tried to register what happened. Naruto, Hinata yelled. Ward had never seen the side of Naruto, and watching him absorb Orochimaru's chakra seemed to look excruciatingly painful. They all looked at the chakra fox. Well, you were unfortunately not supposed to witness any of that. However, I don't think we can argue about this, seeing as the Uchiha's life was kind of in danger. Kurama said as they all stared at him, noting the nine tails that seemed to move around casually and off their own free will. I'm sorry, humans, but this must be done, Kurama said as his tails quickly lashed onto them, causing them to faint immediately as he set about removing their memories. This is also, actually stupid. This story is just... Honestly, it's very mid at this point. You always know how to make a mess, don't you, Naruto? Kurama sighed as he moved Kiba and Shino into their room and Sasuke and Sakura into the other room. He laid Hinata onto the bed before he went to get to Naruto. He won't be out for long, but Hinata should wake him up before me, Kurama muttered to himself. He placed the fully unclothed Naruto on the bed in a compromising position, with his legs spread wide open and his arms... Oh my god. Alright. Valentine's Day, so I'm skipping the whole chapter. Chapter 18. All the Genin stood assembled in a giant hall with 2 balconies on either side and a slightly raised platform in front of them. The Hokage was seated there, alongside the other proctors. The Jonin sensei of all the teams present were standing up on the balconies. This is the preliminary round, Yuji said. He eyed Naruto a little longer than the rest as she looked at them. So why it say he eyed Naruto when it's a she, but whatever. It was to tell him not to reveal too much. You have to fight against each other from now on. Those who win will pass the final round, and those who are defeated will be eliminated from the Chunin exams. Everyone here is now your enemy. Now please go wait on the platform until your name appears on the screen, Yuji said, and pointed at the screen with her sword. All the Genin immediately headed upstairs. Yuji gave a nod. A man by the screen, Hayate, entered in the names of all the Genin who had not forfeited. Then he flickered a switch. The screen began to cycle through a whole bunch of letters until it slowed down and displayed 2 names. Sasuke Uchiha versus Yoroi Akado. The 2 Genin jumped down, with Kakashi and Naruto both paying close interest. Orochimaru, under the guise of a sound Jonin sensei, also watched. Sakura didn't even look. Last few days had been anything but peaceful. She envied Naruto's relationship with Hinata. Sasuke didn't bother talking to her anymore, and it crushed her heart completely. She spent the nights crying on Hinata's arms, heartbroken. What happened last chapter? And she couldn't even bear to look at Sasuke anymore. At least before that day, Sakura knew she had a faint hope, even if it was a star's length away. The Uchiha might like her, but now she knew from his reaction that it was not existent. Sasuke looked like he liked sleep, but he glared and activated his Sharingan immediately. Begin, Yuji said, and jumped back. The 2 Genin jumped at each other, exchanging blows. Sasuke jumped back again, realizing that his chakra was being drained from him somehow. Yoroi smirked. You feel that? The chakra drain is immense, he said with a chuckle. Sasuke closed his eyes for a moment. In the blink of an eye, he reappeared at Yoroi's feet, launching a kick straight up at Yoroi's chin. He was hit hard and knocked straight into the air, where Sasuke immediately appeared directly behind them. Lee and Guy gasped as they watched while Naruto and Kakashi didn't say anything. The dancing leaf shadow. He copied it from you, Lee, Guy said. Well, shouted, I guess. Sasuke smirked. That may have been copied, but from here on out, it's all original. Lines barrage, Sasuke said as he kicked them with his right leg, then left leg, before twisting through the air to get above him in order to slam his right foot down in a devastating axe kick. Yori was smashed into the ground. Yujiro stepped forward and took a look. He was out cold. Sasuke Uchiha wins and advances to the next round, she said as a medic Nin came in and placed Yujiro Yori on a stretcher and took him away. She noted Hayate as Sasuke left the battle area and went back to the balcony and stood by his team. Again, the screen cycled through a bunch of letters before they ended once more. Shikamaru Nara versus Tsuchi? I don't know. Tsuchi. However you pronounce that. This fight wasn't going to be interesting. That was the thought going through a lot of the Leaf Genin's minds. Shikamaru was known to be the laziest person in Konoha, even he was a genius. Kin started the fight almost immediately, throwing needles at Shikamaru, prompting him to dodge. He took his trademark position with his right hand sealed and tried to attach his shadow using his shadow possession jutsu on her, but she dodged and threw more senbon at him, forcing him to stop his jutsu. Shikamaru dodged him again, but this time he saw and heard bells ringing on them. Very clever. You throw some with bells and some without bells, so I dodged the ones I can hear and get hit by the others, Shikamaru said. Kin smirked. No, she extended a finger which had string tied to it and switched it. The bells began to ring from the senbon on the walls behind him. Shikamaru, his ears started ringing as he saw Kin begin to multiply. Genjutsu. Shikamaru groaned. Kin simply smirked and raised her hand, preparing to throw her senbon when she found that she couldn't move. It was Shikamaru's turn to smirk, as he pointed out that the shadow cast from the string was thicker than it normally would. He then took out several kunai, watching as Kin was forced to mirror the action. Then he threw, knowing Kin would do so as well. You're crazy, she shouted at him. At the last second he ducked, and so did she, but she ended up slamming her head into the wall behind her and fainted immediately. Yujiro stepped forward. Shikamaru wins and advances to the final round. Again, the medics came out the floor and they cleared it. The screen cycled through the letters a third time before they stopped. Hinata Hyuga versus Neji Hyuga. Hinata was visibly shaken. Her cousin Neji was a prodigy of the Hyuga clan, but being a branch clan member, although Hiashi had started to reform the Hyuga clan, still made him bitter. They both headed down. You should forfeit, Lady Hinata. Fate has already decided that I win this match, Neji said arrogantly. Hinata steeled herself. No, Neji. I will fight. I am a ninja, and I never go back on my word. I'll never give up, Hinata said as she activated her Byakugan and entered the Hyuga stance. Neji sighed. Very well, then prepare to lose, Neji said, as he activated his Byakugan and settled into his stance. Naruto was worried. He'd watched them both train and he knew that Neji detested him, because Naruto had a connection to Lady Hinata, which seemed to have integrated him into the main branch in Neji's book. He knew Neji was much stronger than Hinata. He only hoped he'd be fast enough when and if Neji went for a fatal strike. It was a great way to maintain his anonymity, fake being injured so bad he can't continue, so that he didn't have to reveal any of his skills until Orochimaru tried to take Sasuke away. The two Hyugas traded blows, their gentle fist techniques causing small bursts of chakra to appear visible in the air. It was Hinata who had struck the first real blow, landing a glancing hit to Neji's side before Neji retaliated with a strike to her arm. They continued to fight, both landing strikes on each other until Hinata found an opening and struck Neji in the side, solidly with an open palm strike. Neji froze for a moment before striking Hinata's arm again and pushing back her sleeves to reveal red dots all over her arm. Hinata gasped. You've been closing my Tengetsu point, she said in horror. Neji only responded with a backhand strike which sent her stumbling back and falling to her knees. Give up, Lady Hinata. You can't win, he said again. She struggled to stand to her feet. I'm fighting in front of the one... Oh my god, this is that... Okay. This is on some fairy tale shit. I'm fighting in front of the one I loved. He gives me strength. I'll never give up and won't lose, Hinata shouted, spitting out a bit of blood as she charged at Neji again. She attacked them again with renewed rigor and strength, her ferocity forcing Neji to be more defensive, countering and not being able to attack her. He sidestepped another open palm strike, only to be hit in the face by another, this time making him stumble back. The Genin were all silent, witnessing this fight. All the Leaf Genin knew that Hyuga excelled in taijutsu, and that Neji was a prodigy. It would be close, they thought, but Neji would win. Neji's eyes flashed in undisguised anger. Why do you continue to fight? You can't beat me, yet you try and defy fate's design? You'll never beat me, main branch or not. You're weak and rely too much on others. A weakling will never be able to beat a genius, Neji shouted as he charged, striking Hinata multiple times in raw anger. Hinata tried to counter, but Neji was simply too fast, too strong. She fell back under his onslaught, losing more and more ground until she was back up against the wall, blood being coughed out of her mouth. Neji cried out as he drew his palm back and struck forward. The Jonin sensei all leapt forward as well as Yujiro, desperately shouting out, "Stop, Neji, the fight's over." They cried out. Kakashi, Kurenai, Yujiro, and Guy all appeared by Neji, restraining him. It was too late. He was too fast and his open palm strike had already landed. His palm had been flooded with so much chakra in his rage he had sent a large burst of chakra into his opponent's chest, where the heart was. Even the main branch gets special treatment, Neji said sourly as he left the area. The Jonin senseis all turned to Hinata, who was still standing there, distraught and with tears flowing down her eyes. In her arms was Naruto, who had leapt in and taken the full force of the blow, a handprint-sized hole in his clothes where his heart was, indicating the sheer amount of chakra used to be able to destroy a part of his clothing. Naruto's eyes were closed, then he coughed out some blood. "Ow," he muttered as he opened his eyes and saw the face of all the Jonin senseis of the Leaf, except Asuma looking down at him. He could see Kakashi's face, and could tell by the way his eyes were twitching that he was trying not to suppress a grin. "Medic," Kurenai called. Naruto was surprised. He'd move his chakra to the place where Neji was going to strike preemptively, so that he could cancel out the chakra burst with his own chakra, but not enough to completely negate the damage. He didn't think that Neji was so strong though, that he would, as a side effect, destroy the seal on his chest, which stopped Sasuke from using the cursed mark's chakra. Yeah, that's also kind of an L plot with the whole curse mark thing. "I'm fine," Naruto said as he stood up, giving Hinata a thumbs up. Hinata was relieved, although she wasn't quite sure how he had survived that strike. The gentle fist technique was deadly in close combat. By sending condensed bursts of chakra into the opponent, if it hit a vital spot it would cause huge damage, ruptures, and maybe even fatal injuries. But Naruto had simply gotten up after the hit. Hinata didn't think too much about it though. They all got back onto the balcony to see who would go next. Kiba, Shino, Sasuke, Sakura, and Hinata looked at Naruto. He seemed to be leaning on the railing for support, but otherwise he looked fine. Kiba and Izuka versus Naruto Uzumaki. Kiba looked shocked for a moment. In his heart he knew he would lose. He had witnessed Naruto's strength and power firsthand, but he wasn't going down without a fight, and he knew Naruto would appreciate it. Kiba walked down the stairs slowly. Sasuke turned to his best friend who was about to go to join Kiba. "Don't be reckless." "Why did you have to block Neji's strike? You're too weak to fight now," Sasuke said, worried. Naruto gave him a grin. "I care about Hinata, and I'll never be weak, so long as she's here for me," Naruto said. "It's the power of love." Who wrote this, bro? What are you, like 12? A lot of the parts of the story are good though, so I can't complain too much. He added, in knowing that Itachi had tasked him with removing all the thoughts about seeking power for vengeance in Sasuke's mind. Sasuke looked at him thoughtfully. "Better go down there," Naruto said, as he leapt over the railing. See, the whole plot with Sasuke and Naruto and Itachi and him like getting rid of the hatred, that's like cool. I've never seen that done like this before. But then like there's just parts that are just like corny, and the story would be like great without them. But hey, maybe that's just my personal taste. Let me know if you think differently in the comments. Naruto said as he leapt over the railing, landing lightly on his feet, but seemed to lose his balance slightly. Begin, Yuja said and stepped back. Let's go, Akamaru, Kiba said as he gave his dog a food pill. Food pill, wink wink. Tiger, man beast clone, Kiba shouted as Akamaru transformed into Kiba. They both got into a stance and watched Naruto cautiously. Naruto got into his taijutsu stance too. The two Kibas began to run along the ground like dogs towards Naruto. Naruto shifted his stance slightly. The Inuzuka clan styles all benefited the dog and the partner in their skirmishes. And he knew that if the ninja and his ninkin were all seasoned fighters, there would be a terrifying combo. He knew one of them was going to attack from his blind spot to nullify his strength advantage. Upstairs on the balcony, Orochimaru watched the fight with interest. The boy is a natural prodigy. He naturally gets into the correct stance to counter a two-pronged blind spot attack before it is even initiated. Too bad for him. I did temper with Neji before the fight, Orochimaru thought. He approached Neji under the guise of a civilian, wishing him luck, shaking his hand in doing so. This had allowed him to transfer a small portion of his chakra, unnoticed by Neji, into him, and during the fight between Neji and Hinata, he'd move his chakra into the palm strike, which had hit Naruto, knowing he'd block it, and now he was going to remove the Ambu that would stop him from acquiring his Sharingan vessel. He raised his hands unnoticed by everyone as they were fixated on the fight and formed a snake seal. Naruto went to block the first attack, but the punch was feint, and he swung around quickly to see the second Kiba drawing back his fist. Naruto suddenly felt a sudden sharp pain from where he had been hit by Neji's palm strike. He froze, his hand clutching his chest, feeling unbelievable amounts of pain. It spread out around his entire body and he collapsed right before Kiba. Orochimaru surveyed his work from the balcony. Naruto, you'll never mess with my plans again, he thought, as he turned and left the room, no longer needing to watch as the floor was swarmed with medics. And that's where I'm gonna end it, guys. I hope you've all enjoyed, and I'll catch y'all in the next video. Bye.